Okay, can everyone see my screen? Sorry, I lose. For some reason, I forgot that every time I go to screen sharing, Zoom decides to get rid of chat. I don't know why. Cool. You can see it. Thank you for joining this evening. Today we're going to be talking about experimentation, how to conduct experiments, and some ideas around problem validation and market validation. Before we dive in today's lesson, I want to see if y'all have any questions about assignment one, the lesson, or any of the previous lessons that we've covered at all. No? Okay, cool. So we'll dive into the lesson for today. So what we'll talk about today. Oh, sorry. One quick shout out. I know there is there's an instructor coming on the last 30 minutes to talk a bit about. I think y'all have some Spotify, or geez, not Spotify, Shopify work that you have going on. So I believe her name was Shaylin. Um, I think she identifies as female. My apologies if she does not. Will be joining for the last 30 minutes to walk you all through some additional, I think, Shopify items that are outstanding. So I will do my best to get through all the material in the next 2.5 hours. Again, quick reminder that we will take a 10-minute break somewhere around the top of the hour, so around 8 p.m. y'all's time. And then we'll try and take maybe a shorter, maybe just 5-minute break around 9 p.m. y'all's time. Cool. So again, today we'll be talking about experimentation. And when I work in the experimentation area and build hypotheses, they're usually around these two key product risks that you have to identify and validate. So the first one being like validating that the problem is real for your target customers. So we're talking about problem identification and how to validate those, some techniques on how to validate them. And then the next critical thing is that after you've validated that the problem does exist for a set of users, validating your market that exists. So seeing the overall size, composition, and like total addressable market that you have available. So we'll talk about market validation and some market validation techniques. And then we'll talk about kind of the tactical methods of hypothesis-driven design, how you write up hypotheses, and yep, and then we'll because that bleeds into what will be assignment 3. Cool. So problem identification. I don't know if I've read this quote off to y'all, but this is one of my favorite product quotes that I like to use from the late David Hussman. He said, the difference between learning and failure is how much money you spend on doing it. So what this means to me, right? And good morning to everyone too. Or good evening. Yeah, so what this means to me, again, I know we've talked about it kind of obliquely in the last couple of classes, but one of the most important things you can do as a product manager or working in product is to be continuously learning and finding scrappy ways to do that learning. I'm not talking about like learning from a book standpoint. I'm talking about learning about your users, learning about your product, learning about what your users need out of your product. So it's much easier to build simple solutions before you actually have a development team fully implement your product changes. So yeah, David was spot on with that. So what we're going to talk about is the problem identification. So do y'all recall when we talked about the problem space versus solution space? Can someone give me a quick synopsis of like the problem space versus the solution space from the other course, from the other lesson? Anyone? Or let me ask the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you, yeah, I'm not clear about the question.
Okay, cool. I'd like to know what is the difference between working in the problem space and the solution space. Cool. So I'll help maybe refresh y'all's memory a bit, right? Working in the problem space is primarily discovery focused. And in the problem space, I think you still don't know fully the problems that your customers are facing, and where their challenges arise from, and even specifically talking about building out products, what feature set and what capabilities they need to actually solve their problem. Working in the solution space, you want to do after you've validated that your problem for your customers actually exists. It's valuable enough for you to build something to resolve those problems, and the value is there enough that they will actually complete purchases or signups or whatever your primary metrics are for your product are. If I think of some examples of diving too quickly into the solution space, there's a lot of, I think, trending technologies right now. I like using blockchain as an example, because blockchain is a very powerful tool that you can use. But if you're unfamiliar with blockchain, it's a technical algorithm that ends up being utilized for like Bitcoin or Ether or any of the other like cryptocurrencies that you might have heard of. How those cryptocurrencies actually work is off an algorithm called the blockchain. I've seen people, and there's people that are very, very passionate about this algorithm. It is really interesting and technically complex, and it can solve a lot of real world problems that other more traditional product design techniques couldn't. That said, I've observed people quite often trying to use blockchain just for anything. And that's just because I think they're more interested in using blockchain as a technology rather than solving the actual customer's problems. So I've seen examples of where like they tried, I've been part of a team that tried to implement blockchain technology for a media startup. And it really was just not the right technological solution. And again, that's because our team was basically, we had a solution in search of a problem instead of a problem that we were trying to find a solution for. Yeah, that's right, Esther. Problem space discovery.
Nick, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this concept on problem space versus solution space, is it a concept that is going to be utilized throughout this course?
I would say so. Yeah, I don't think we were going to talk about this very much more explicitly.
But it's something that we need to know.
Yes, you are 100% accurate. It is one of the, I think, most critical pieces to performing like lean product management. So
Yeah.
I personally have observed lots of people that go out and start just building solutions before they actually know that the problem really exists, and it's so costly to go about it in that way.
So am I right to say that in the problem space, there is really no product or design that exists, in that problem space?
Yes. Yeah. That the problem space, you are looking for problems that your customers are experiencing. That said, so I do want to clarify, it's in the real world, it's never quite this clean, right? Typically, you make an interesting observation somewhere out there in the wild, in the business area or in your personal life or something, and a lot of times, like, the problems that I observe are problems that I personally experience. I go online and I want to like order something, and I find it really hard to find that product, right? Like, why is this product so hard to find? Am I the only person that's experiencing this problem, or am I representative of a much broader audience, right? There, I'm like, oh, great. I think this is a real problem. Just because you experience that problem, though, I would not recommend diving right into trying to solve the problem for yourself. I would try and validate if that problem exists for enough other people that you can build a viable product around.
Okay.
Does that help clarify a little?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. All right. So I think we're clear on this. Like, what we're doing, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, it's primarily focused around the problem space. Subsequent courses, we're going to talk a lot more about the solution space. We're going to talk about things like really tactical things, like using agile techniques to build products, and doing things like A/B tests and other, I think, more solution spaced. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Esther. So you identify problems that your users experience, and then you build solutions to solve those problems. Correct. Cool. So talking about the problem space, we're going to validate that the problem is real, and I'm going to talk about some very cost-effective ways to validate that the problem is real. Ways that maybe require a little bit of building with like an engineering team, but very, very simple, very minimal building. And even if you're non-technical, you can perform most of these techniques without ever having to like write a single line of software. Even like, so I know some of y'all are talking about like Shopify accounts and building sites around those and stuff. You can even apply a lot of these techniques to something that's as pre-built as something like a Shopify site. So let's dive in. What happened? Yeah, cool. So let's dive into some of these techniques, and these techniques are kind of part of this whole continuous feedback loop that's quite common in, we talked about it a little bit, I think in the first lesson that I did with y'all, where we talked about agile development and product discovery. But it's part of this learning feedback loop where you learn, you build something small, you measure its impact, and then either you continue, you persevere, right? You double down on the thing that you have built, or if you learn something new, you pivot into a new feature change or a new capability within your product. So the first, we talked about this briefly previously, but I want to dive deeper into this. One of the best places you can start validating your problems is by working through your customer support team. So this is primarily focused on those of y'all that are interested in working at large enterprises, because but if you're bootstrapping your own product or product area, you yourself might be your customer support team. So some of these you might experience firsthand anyway. But yeah, so validating the problem with your customer support team. So you can look through your existing customer support cases for problems that might arise. I often like random sampling, so you grab a thousand like case IDs or whatever way your organization does their customer support cases. Throw them up in a spreadsheet, and like at least in Google Sheets, there's a if you right click on a whole range of cells, you can randomize the range, and bada boom, you have like a very simple random sampling of the cases that you're looking at. So um, make sure that you don't want to fall into like a recency bias. So if you go from like, top to bottom of your customer support cases, you might look at customer support cases that literally just came in yesterday, to the detriment of ones that might be weeks or maybe months old. So yeah, try and do random sampling as much as possible, or spot checking. I think there's some important callouts when work with your customer support team about either looking for outliers or ignoring outliers. This depends, I think, on the nature of how your support organization works, and kind of the crux of the problem you're looking for. So when I say looking for outliers, that might be customer support cases that took exceptionally longer than the norm. So if your normal customer support case takes, let's say, 1 hour to resolve, and you go looking for cases that took 10 hours to resolve, or you look for ones that had your average number of exchanges between your customer support representatives and your customers is like, let's say there's on average 2 or 3 exchanges over email. You might look for outliers that had like 15 exchanges, 20 exchanges over email. That could be very useful at times, especially when you're looking for really, really like crunchy problems that your customers are facing. To contrast that, sometimes you want to ignore the outliers, and that is in instances, same thing, but sometimes those outliers can be, I'm sure you've heard of the term edge cases, right? But they might be edge cases, and they're not fully representative of your like primary customer. They might be someone in essence that's trying to use your product for something that doesn't quite fit with your product vision. Again, that could be an interesting find that possibly there's a new product or a sub product that you currently have that fits that customer need. But again, you have to validate that this isn't just like a handful of customers that are experiencing this problem. It's indicative of a much larger cohort of people that have this problem. Interviewing your support agents, they're your frontline. They can probably represent the voice of your customer better than just about anyone else within your organization. They deal with customer problems on a regular basis. Again, at large enterprises, this can sometimes be challenging. It depends on how you actually have your customer support agents like allocated. They might be vendorized, and not full-time employees of your organization. If that's the case, there's sometimes some challenges around interviewing and talking with them, but that's kind of, I think, part of corporate politics and corporate, like how you work within large corporations. And then like the most impactful way, I think, of validating problems through the lens of your customer support organization is you yourself actually picking up and taking support cases. So you can sit on the floor of your customer support organization and take the cases as they come in, just as if you were an agent. That not only allows you to empathize with your customers, it actually allows you to empathize with your support agents as well, possibly see inefficiencies in how they do their day-to-day job, and help maybe add their perspective into the product as you build it out. Like, one of the illities, right? That's like supportability is an illity of your product, is something that's key to consider, because your support team, especially as you get to, if you're talking about hundreds of thousands or millions or even billions of users, how supportable that product is will be one of the key factors in how successful your product is overall. The next one is these are two separate techniques, but they do end up being similar in nature. So this is the concierge test or the Wizard of Oz. The gist of this this problem validation technique is you basically do the work on the customer's behalf. This is really great because you actually experience the pain points that your customers face as you go through this. The gist of these two is like you want to manually do work which doesn't scale, right? You can't. You performing this you couldn't build a real product around the way that you do this because you are literally manually doing it rather than using some kind of software system to do it. Again, like the Wizard of Oz is a specialized version of the concierge technique. And so let's talk about some examples of what I mean when I'm talking about the concierge tester or Wizard of Oz. So imagine, is everyone familiar? Does anyone not know what Uber is? I would hope not, but I don't know. Cool. I'll take silence as a yes. So imagine this is pre Uber being built, but you have a hypothesis that it is challenging to find a taxi in the city, and it would be really cool if there was just an application that connected drivers and passengers quickly, right? You could build a very simple web page without really any engineering resources, and it would have a field to say what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your location, right? This could even be like a Google form in essence that collects these three pieces of data. Your users fill the form out, and then imagine that form literally just gets sent to your email inbox. You look at this information and you say, oh, I see Sally Smith, her phone number is 1-813 yada yada yada, and she's at the corner of like Sycamore and 5th Street. Great. I'm going to find her a taxi. You then pick up your phone, call the local taxi service, tell them you have a customer, they're at this street location, and you ask to be put on the phone with the driver. You talk to the driver as they literally drive to where your customer's at, and you continually provide updates back to the person that filled the form out, telling them where the driver is. The driver is 5 minutes away. The driver is 2 minutes away. The driver is right there. Like, what do you look like? Blah, 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 blah. So that, I think I kind of, in an abstract way, explained what Uber does, but Uber does all this, right, programmatically through software. It's a whole marketplace that's connecting, again, users, passengers and drivers, right? But you don't know that you wouldn't have known before Uber existed that problem was one that people actually faced, and two, something that was like a viable thing that you could build. So that's where the concierge tester or Wizard of Oz comes into play, where you could experiment with that. You would see from doing that manual process, you would see what challenges your customer faces. Like, they might have a tough time explaining verbally where their location is. What's that lead you to? That leads you to oh, we should use the geo-positioning services within the phone to automatically guess where the user is. They might speak the same language as the driver. Oh, we need a translation service when the driver and passenger are communicating. They might not know how much it's going to cost for them to perform their travel. Oh, I can call the taxi service and find out their rate, and I can do the calculation of where the my user wants to start at and where they want to end at, and do the math quickly to like estimate how much that trip will cost. Does that example kind of make sense to you? Do you have questions about that? Does this like Concierge or Wizard of Oz test make sense? And I don't know if y'all are familiar with the film The Wizard of Oz, right? Again, like this is where my American centric thoughts come in, but like, if you haven't, there's a big monster. I forget what it is even, but and all these characters are afraid of the big monster, and really it's just yes, it's a very old movie, indicative of age. Yes, so there's just a guy behind a screen pushing levers and knobs that makes it seem like, right, this monster is real, but really it's just a guy behind a screen. So that's where like the Wizard of Oz test, that's where the term the Wizard of Oz test comes into play. Cool. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones, because it's like a fun problem to solve. Like, I have this product idea. I think I can build software around this, but like, I want to pretend like I'm a computer essentially and do the things that a computer would be doing. Can y'all think of any examples maybe for products you're working on, or ideas that you have where you could like perform a Concierge test or Wizard of Oz test? Yeah, Airbnb is like a great example too, right? Airbnb is like very similar to Uber in a lot of regards. But yeah, let's say let's say Airbnb does not exist, but you have the strike of genius that like, oh, maybe Airbnb, what is Airbnb today could exist. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call up a bunch of people that own their homes but are maybe going on vacation this month. I'm just going to find people, and I'm going to then connect them with other people that want to rent their homes out, and then I'm going to manually perform all the transactions between these two people before I build an application.
So Nick, for Airbnb and for Uber, they are the solution, right? Because the concierge test is the end product is Uber and Airbnb.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Then this I'm trying to I'm trying to project into, imagine Airbnb or Uber didn't exist, right? And you were trying to see if you could build an Airbnb or an Uber. Yes. Essentially.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think PayPal payment platforms is another great example, right? Imagine pre-PayPal or Venmo or any of the other, like now, 15 different payment platforms that exist, right? But that was one of the things, like it was the only option I think prior to that was like Western Union, and Western Union was I might be dating myself now, but I remember going to Western Union like when I was away from my parents and calling my mom and be like, hey mom, I need money, and she would like go to the local grocery store, fill out this weird form. Western Union for overseas transfer. So I the only payments processing I've ever had experience with was between the UK and the US and India in the US. India's payments system is like radically different from the US's. So connecting those two is very challenging, right? And Western Union, if I recall correctly, was very expensive. And I think that's because there was so much manual processing done. Like it wasn't done. There wasn't nearly as much technology used as I think I would say like a PayPal or a Venmo or again, the litany of other payment apps. But yeah, even like if I take your example, Ivy, like you don't have to build a product necessarily to connect people that want like Sri Lankan imports and that stuff. You could you literally could manually do that. You could go find a sourcer in Sri Lanka, order a bunch of stuff, and then like go to a local market somewhere near you and see if people are buying these products right before building a site. You might have already done this and validated that exists, right? But it's like an example of what you could do to go out and like validate, right? You would basically manually be doing what a website or like a Shopify site is doing.
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of like online shopping like Lazada, RateMart, where you can place your products actually. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's a it's basically connecting sellers and buyers. Right? It's another platform that's connecting, I guess, sellers and buyers, but they're doing a lot of the wiring for you.
That's right.
Yeah. So like you could throw it up on there first and be like, hey, are people buying this product? Now, again, there's other things I think you have to consider. Is the visibility of your products on that platform the right place to be, right? Are people searching for Sri Lankan cinnamon? Like, are they searching for Sri Lankan cinnamon there, or is that not something that comes to mind for customers? Like, go to that site to look for it. So all those things I think you have to consider too. But yeah, these always like scrappy ways to validate that the problem that you think exists for more than just yourself or your like close-knit group of people.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
The fake door test. This is similar to the Concierge or Wizard of Oz test, but there are some unique differences. So imagine you have a shopping site that has a bunch of products on there. You allow your customer to add that item to like their digital cart. And then when they go to checkout, you say, sorry, this item is all sold out, or this item is no longer available, or something like that. And the reason you do that is because the item doesn't actually exist yet, or it's not available on your site. You haven't actually sourced it yet. Or that the same with like a feature set. So quite often I think you say, would you like to sign up for this new digital product? Let's say it's like this is done quite often like in the enterprise workspace, but would you like to sign up for this for like Jira? We'll just use that as an example. And then within Jira's feature set, you say, oh, I would like this feature. You click on it and it says, oh, we are currently, you make it look like this feature is fully fleshed out. I want to be careful about this too, because I don't want it to seem like you're being deceptive. This is really a way to validate that people actually want like this feature or this sub product. So on your webpage, again, you would express that by users either signing up or clicking on it or something, they can get that feature or that product. You would set a goal. So you'd say, we want to see 15% of all users that come to the site sign up for it, right? So, you had 10,000 users come on, did 1,500 of those users actually click on the button to try and get the item that is technically unavailable? Did they end up going to the fake door? Again, so a great bonus points is if you can get a form of payment up front. Now, do not collect payment, right? Like you don't have anything to actually provide. So there, you can't have users pay for the product, but you can say, hey, if you would like, provide us your credit card information. And when this comes available, we'll send you an email telling you it's available. And you can we'll already have your credit card information on file. That's if you have people providing their payment information, and there's not actually anything available yet, and you express to them it's not available yet, that means they have a strong desire for the item or the feature that you have out there. That's about one of the most direct ways to validate that the problem for your users really exists. They're actually willing to fork over money or put their credit card into another website in anticipation of paying for this in the future. And also literally because there's additional time it takes to input your credit card information. Granted, I know there's all kinds of like automated ways now, like Google or different platforms, like saving your credit card information for you. But like it's additional steps that users have to go through. So if they provide that information, I think it's a very, very strong indicator that the problem that you think exists really does exist for a set of customers. An important call too here is in like the B2B space. There's this concept of buy a feature. So you can say this, imagine you express this as our product roadmap, you know, in 2 months, we're going to have feature X, in 3 months, we will release feature Y, in 4 months, we'll release feature Z. If you give us X amount of dollars, you know, you know, Coca-Cola, for example, hey, Coca-Cola, if you give us, you know, $10,000, we'll actually move feature 4 up to the top of the list now. This will be like the next feature that comes out of our product. So if you can combine this with like a buy a feature type thing, it also is a very strong way to validate that the problem exists for some users. And that's a little bit like that also with the B2B context, that you have to involve your like sales and marketing department with like a buy a feature type functionality. But again, it's a primary indicator of problem viability. Sorry, I missed some of these. Kriti, you said SIM card can be a product. Was that in reference to like the fake door or any of the other?
Yes, a slide you show us, right?
The
For
concierge
that,
test?
yeah, here can, because I never see SIM card online. Because
Yeah,
people travel to other country, right? Oh,
right.
normally people, they have, some people, they have like Singtel. If we are staying in Singapore, we are traveling to another country,
Hmm.
we take on, sometimes we need to buy SIM card from another
Right.
country. So, but I mean, I can use SIM card online, can create that in Shopee.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You could like, I knowing, I mean, I worked at telecommunications companies. Ironically, I don't know that much about how
I
mobile
also don't
networks
know, that's
work,
why I'm
though.
asking.
I do know there's like digital, like talking very specifically about SIM cards. Digital SIM cards are becoming more and more ubiquitous. Like my Google Pixel 4, I think that's what my most recent one is. When I did my most recent international travel, I was like, oh, I need a SIM card. And when I asked like our tech department about like, oh, hey, can I get a SIM card for my phone? Like, no, you don't have to worry about it. You have a digital SIM in your phone. It just like automatically flips over when you travel to other countries. I was like, oh, great. Also technically Google pays my cell phone bill, so I don't really, a lot of that stuff is abstracted away from me, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
But that is a trend that is occurring. That said, there are a lot of people that don't have the most recent devices, right? So especially I think as like you know, emerging markets get more and more digital technology, yeah, like easy to change out SIM cards, or SIM cards programmed for the different like either countries or regions or telco carriers. Yeah, that definitely could be like I mean, that's a physical product to sell, but yes.
We can take that example as an example for this one.
Um, I would not say a SIM card necessarily is like a concierge test, because there's no, like, you're literally selling the actual. I mean, you could validate that the hypothesis that people need SIM cards, right? And to take it a step further, I think it would be an interesting experiment to see what regions people need SIM cards for. So yeah, you could say, oh, I have like an Indian SIM card, I have a Chinese SIM card, I have a Japanese SIM card, I have an Indonesian SIM card, I have an Australian SIM card, right? Like I'm just like off the top of my head throwing out places I know are kind of by Singapore. Please forgive me if I'm misspeaking there. But yeah, like here's a bunch of SIM cards for like different regions and mobile carriers, and you could see which ones people click on the most. You could be like, oh, sorry, that when they click on it, you say that's really more a fake door. But like, oh, sorry, that we ran out of availability of that SIM card. You know, if you see 10,000 people click on the Indian SIM card and 2,000 people click on the Australian SIM card, you're like, oh, it seems like the Indian SIM card is a lot more ubiquitously needed than the Australian SIM card, at least for like the market that I'm targeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, like you're not technically yet selling the SIM card yet. You're testing the market to see how many people really want this.
Oh, okay. So it cannot be a main product.
What do you mean by a main product?
Means this example can take for this scenario only. Because if you go to previous slide, this product means this product. Okay.
Yeah, again, I think you could use like you could use essentially any physical product. You could use a fake door with any physical product, right? Because it's very easy to place it as available in your shopping cart. Like, I'll talk specifically about Shopify because I've done a little bit of it, right? You can put it in you can put it as an available item, but then make your inventory for it 0.
Okay.
And again, like then you could see if a bunch of those SIM cards are how many people wanted like a SIM card of a certain type, and then you could bulk purchase those. You know, you don't end up overbuying SIM cards that customers won't end up purchasing at the end of the day.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions about like Wizard of Oz, Concierge, Test, or Fake Door? I see when you said, Esther, about can I bulk purchase at a specialty price? Yeah. So that's another way. Like you could potentially test some of these ideas out. You could say, hey, you know, I'm currently selling an item as a like a unit of 1. What if I sold this unit in groups of 10? Would people want to buy this product in groups of 10 at a discounted rate? You could run a fake door test for that as well. Like, oh, sorry, you know, we don't have like the 10-pack bundle available yet, but you can see how many people are willing to you know, buy in bulk, or of the people that are willing to buy in bulk, what makes them differ from the more typical customer that I have coming in.
So Nick,
yeah, go ahead.
the fake door is basically, you know, things that you put there to get an indicative number of potential, whether it's something you want to do later, you want to add on as a feature.
Yes.
It's right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You're dead on, right? I mean, like, it's literally called the fake door because imagine there's a sign on a door that says bathrooms this way, and you open it up and it's just a brick wall instead. You're like, you know, but you can see how many people tried to go to the bathroom and say, hey, I saw a lot of people try and use the restroom. Maybe I should build a bathroom behind this door eventually because there's enough interest in this item.
Okay. Cool.
Again, important concepts are like looking at, so you want to set a goal or like a ratio. So of all the people that show up, how many of them tried to use the fake door? Cool. The next one I'll talk about is like so this is more for digital products, but like breaking a spreadsheet. I don't know how many of y'all have like super Excel or Google Sheets experience, but you can do some crazy and in my opinion, somewhat dangerous things with a spreadsheet when it comes to doing formulas and calculations and all this. And that logic that you have in a spreadsheet is often quite easily replicated by engineers in a digital product, right? The logic is fairly similar. So sometimes you can literally just make a spreadsheet and then make that spreadsheet available to the wider market. I think of things like interest calculators or especially anything that like has to do with a lot of calculations or math or organization of information or data that you can do in a spreadsheet. Again, like make a very quick website, put the spreadsheet on that website and say, oh, would you like to like quickly be able to do this and see how many people download the spreadsheet and actually use it, right? That's a great way to know if there's just a viable problem for others to use. Again, the context of this depends on like I think what the product idea you have is. But yeah, you could quite often use a spreadsheet as a placeholder for the actual end digital product. Again, they're like spreadsheets are like clunky, but they're easily understood, right? And anyone with enough like research can basically build anything within a spreadsheet. And like I was saying, because I think the logic and how they're constructed aligns a lot with how digital software is built at the end of the day, you can hand this off to your technical team like, hey, we had 50,000 downloads of the spreadsheet. This looks like a product feature that we should actually build in our application for people to use in the future, and they can take that spreadsheet, unpack the logic in it and actually build a real like product feature out of it. The 5 whys. So I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with this concept, but it comes from Simon Sinek. He's done a bunch of stuff. But basically the gist of it, though it sounds kind of simple, is you ask why 5 times. So if you experience, someone throw a problem out there that you think might exist, or a problem that you've experienced. Or I could pick on you, Ivy, because I understand the thing that you want to do. So let's say it's hard to find like Sri Lankan spices in Singapore. Okay. Or like customers want Sri Lankan, like I think customers want Sri Lankan spices in Singapore. We're gonna ask why 5 times. Why is that? Oh, well, there's a lot of expats in Singapore from Sri Lanka.
Yes.
That like the spices from like their home country. Why is that? Well, those spices and foods like bring them reminiscence of their childhood or their upbringing. Why is that? Food is connected to a lot of our mental senses. Okay, where does that lead us to?
Emotional.
So yeah, there you go. Right. So we've asked why now 3 times, right? We've bled down. So it leads you to an emotional connection. So you don't technically always get 5 whys down before you kind of land on the crux of that. So really what we're saying is your at least supposed customers want to have an emotional connection to the food that they consume like nostalgic feelings, right?
Mm.
So that then leads me to say, hey, if I were to build like a website around this, I want to express some things that would bring back that nostalgic emotional connection to increase purchases of the product, right? If you just list all the products, like, yeah, you know, I see all these things, they kind of remind me. But if you show, again, forgive me, but like culturally relevant things to native Sri Lankans, you are now making a more visceral, emotional connection to the products you're selling rather than just listing a bunch of products on your website, right?
Mm. Right.
So we've asked why a few times to get to like a deeper seated thing that our customers are experiencing, and that helps guide our product validation in certain ways. Does that kind of make sense to y'all?
Yes, it's clear to me. I'm just thinking in the digital arena, what kind of whys would I ask for, like a product development? How does that apply?
Yeah. So this applies in a lot of different areas. So let's use the Uber example.
Okay.
Yeah. So this can apply to either the product needs, the market, or the user. So this is just more of an investigation technique.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So
I get you
it can
now.
yeah. This is a way to deeper unpack the reason. I think so. A lot of times people will observe a problem and just immediately say, "Oh, I know the fix." But if you ask why a few times or 5 times, you get to like a much more deeper seated problem. If that helps out
Yeah.
with that explanation a little bit.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
hello. Yeah. In this way, if I ask myself, nowadays the trade is less. So I need to find out, there will be a lot of reasons why the trade is less.
Yeah.
So if I found answers, means there will be a many causes for this.
Yes. Fair. Yeah. Especially so. That's like a challenge, right? Like, why is trade lesson? You can get into some interesting concepts, and I would. There's not the problem with the challenge with the 5 whys is there's not always like a direct answer for that, right? Especially something like trading. There's tons of geopolitical reasons for, like, I don't want to get too political, but like let's just say why is trade lesson between like U.S. and China right now? Well, because the United States' current president is not a fan of Chinese exports and imports. Why is that? His voter base has potentially lost their jobs because a lot of U.S. manufacturing has moved over to China. Why is that? It turns out Chinese manufacturing is less expensive, on par of quality, at least, as the U.S., and just more cost effective for large corporations. Why is that? Well, China is a growing economy. I mean, they're huge now, right? But China was, at least in like the 70s and 80s, a growing, capitalizing economy, right? So like, again, like this something like wise trade lesson, right? You get it's very, very high level, and you might have to ask like 30. You can get into some really sticky situations, right? And again, I don't want to be like too political or anything, but like these are they're an interesting way to investigate like deeper root causes of a problem. You do want to kind of keep in mind that you're trying to get to the why of your customers, though. And quite often, as we did with the Sri Lankan spices, a lot of times it ends up in some sort of like emotional need that your customers are experiencing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this one can go very deep.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And again, like a lot of times, right? Some of this stuff is very much outside of your locus of control, right? But if you start a little narrower, like if you say, why has trade lessened for a given product? Maybe you can start investigating supply chain constraints. Like, so if it's a supply chain constraint, great. That's something that's possibly fixable within your locus of control, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, totally. So that's
Oh,
that's
okay.
the crux of like the 5 whys is you want to kind of do out of the box thinking, right? Um, that the 5 whys technique leads you to out of the box thinking because you're not just looking at the superficial problem and just jumping. Essentially, a lot of times people will look at a superficial problem and then just jump to a conclusion. Oh, the problem is freeing up the product more in the market, but it might be, again, like it might be supply chain train, like we're talking about like physical products right now, but like it might be supply chain constraints. It might be that the market doesn't exist in the quantity that you think. It might be like regulatory challenges. It might be that like that the product just isn't of the highest enough quality. So yes, yeah. So again, that's also a challenge with 5 whys is you don't want to just ask why. Take your own assumptions and then just run with it as well. So you could, surveys definitely help with some of those. Especially that's like if you're going down the path of the 5 whys and you find something like, why is that? And you say, I don't know, or I think it is because of this reason, but openly acknowledging that there is an assumption in that reason. Great, I've found an assumption. I need to now go off and validate whether that assumption is true or false. And that's where we'll get into like hypothesis driven design a little bit. And exactly to your point, Esther, like surveys help a great deal with that, like deep, yeah. So let's discuss briefly any of these problem validation techniques that we reviewed that maybe you can use in your product, and then we'll take a short break. So any ideas on problem validation techniques that you might be able to use for your product? Any of these problem validation techniques that we talked about like stand out as particularly useful for y'all in your kind of product goals?
Mm, Nick, when you're talking about the techniques that we have discussed, you're talking about the concierge test, the fake door, etc. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Yeah. And again, like all these techniques that we went through, these are non-scalable techniques. When I say that, like you couldn't do practically any of these techniques multiple times, right? It's very time consuming for you as the product manager or you as the user researcher to perform these. And the intent of that is I want to actually spend the time really viscerally understanding this problem before I hand something off to a development team, or before I myself go off and like start sourcing product, or before I pay someone to develop this idea for me. So again, like it's like David Hussman said, the difference between like learning and failure is how much money you spend on doing it. Cool. So it is 8:02. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 8:12.
She don't know how to do also. You have a lot of discipline.
All right, everyone. 8:12. Excuse me. I'm choking down my breakfast real fast. Yeah, we talked about how you validate if there is a real problem that people are facing out there in the marketplace. And we got into this a little bit with some of the previous techniques that we reviewed, but a lot of those are more focused around, again, assessing whether the problem is real at all, right? But we haven't really assessed the total size of the market, or how large or how valuable the market for this problem is. You might only have a handful of people that actually experience the problem, or again, you might people might experience this problem, but not be willing to essentially fork over enough money to make the problem valuable enough for you to solve, given your like cost structure of your products. So we're talking about some techniques we can use to actually validate that the market itself it exists and is in a sizable enough quantity that it's worth, again, investing the resources into building a product to address your market problems that you have identified. So we'll talk about a few different techniques, some simple ones. Oh, I think this is out of, oh no, it's not. Okay. Customer surveys, market segmentation, and who your early adopters are. We'll talk about a technique called SWOT. We'll talk about a technique that I really like called the customer discovery plan. Some ways to assess your total addressable market, or your TAM. We'll looking at search trends. And they will actually do some search trends because they're pretty easy to do. And then we'll talk about techniques around crowdfunding and some of the platforms that you can use to look at crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, I think, is more of it can work in the enterprise space, though it definitely works more for like startups and scrap your product development ideas. Cool. Customer surveys. I'm sure y'all have filled these out at some point in life, some point in time in your life, or at least been exposed to them. That said, there's a lot of, unfortunately, really, really bad customer surveys that are in existence. This McDonald's example, I think, is a pretty good survey. It's simple, and it asks fairly discrete, easy questions on a bipolar axis. but some key concepts in building out customer surveys. There's two types of questions you can ask, right? Closed questions versus open questions. If you don't know the difference, right? Like as the name implies, a closed question is one that has a discrete answer, like the example here to the left. These are closed questions. You're just asking people to rate something, or a yes or a no answer, or something that, you know, if you think about either they're multiple choice, or like a checkbox or a drop down. Those are closed questions. Open questions, right, are you're asking for like open feedback. How, like what about the product do you like? What about the product do you dislike? What do you tell your friends about this product if you do, right? So open questions, you're looking, they tend to be like textual, right? They tend to be some form of like short or long form text where you just ask for more generic feedback. Closed questions are great when you want to build like a pie chart, or closed questions work, you know, because they're very quantitative. Open questions work when you want more subjective and explorable feedback for your problems. You can I like to take my open questions, like the responses, throw them up. Are you all familiar with a word cloud? Actually, I'll pull up a word cloud first. I don't know if you can see. So I'll just share the whole screen. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but like so these are word clouds, right? But you can see like it highlight, you know, the words that are used most often are highlighted larger, and there's all kinds of like free online tools you can use to create word clouds, right? But I like to take my open feedback sections. I read through all of them, but I also like to throw them up in word clouds and see what words stand out more than other words. You know, so this is kind of a sadder version. Let's find a happier, not germs and hand washing either. I don't want that one. There we go. Like here's a word cloud of happier things, but you see like interactive is biggest. So like you would like say, oh, there's lots of feedback on like interactivity. Also for like building word clouds, I usually go through and format the text slightly because people use different words to explain the same thing. But yeah, for like closed questions, you can have either unipolar or bipolar questions. These questions here are bipolar, as in there's like two different sides of this question. So they can either be very satisfied all the way down to very dissatisfied, right? A unipolar question only has like one side of that. So it'd be highly satisfied or satisfied, I guess, would be the two options in a unipolar question. There's pros and cons to each of them. You can do some research. There's tons and tons of articles about constructing user surveys and like the benefits of unipolar versus bipolar questions. Try to ask neutral questions. This I am guilty of myself, but like I think one of like the famous product questions, like what do you love about the product? That question is not neutral. You are implying that there is something that your users love about the product. They might hate your product completely. Like there might not be a single thing they love about the product. But there's no other available options. So yeah, try and keep your questions neutral, if at all possible. The next one for surveys is more of a technical thing, but like design for conditionality. So quite often, especially if you have a very long survey, you might, oh, excuse me, you might have questions which only apply to a subset of the people that are completing your survey. So allow your users when completing the survey to skip sections of your survey. Again, like Google Forms and SurveyMonkey both do this really well. That if someone answers a no, let's use a real direct example. You could ask someone, have you used this product before? And it's a yes or a no answer. And if they say no, you can take them right to the end of the survey. Like, thank you for your time. If you'd like to hear more about this product, sign up for this email, email subscription, and they could type their email in and submit the form. Whereas other people that said, yes, I did use the product in the past, then you'd ask them a bunch of questions around their satisfaction with the product, their like feelings on the feature set, and all that. So again, design for conditionality in your surveys. Try and ask one concept at a time, or like again, an example of like asking multiple concepts. You would say like, do you like using this product, and what is your favorite feature about the product? So that's asking like two questions at once. You might end up, some answers might be a yes. Some answers might be just a list of the feature set that they like about the product. And some answers will be both, right? So try and avoid asking like multiple questions all at once. Make each of your questions individual and discrete. And then a thing I strongly advise you to do is to test your customer survey even before you throw it out there to a wider audience. You can have 5 or 10 people quickly fill out the survey and find any like weird loopholes or questions that they find to be vague or non-intuitive to fill out. Refine your survey, iterate, and then release it to a broader audience. So yeah, I strongly recommend piloting your surveys if at all possible. Yeah, so that's like, this is one of the simplest and most scalable techniques for assessing if your market exists in large enough quantity. It's a relatively low overhead to build. I personally don't think surveys always yield the best results. Like I always question the validity of surveys. But I think they're a really great starting point to like start investigating market appetite for your product. So I don't want to dissuade y'all from using surveys again because of their very very cost effective nature. But also when you get survey responses back, take those with a grain of salt and maybe ask some deeper questions once you get surveys back. The next one, this relates a little bit to our personas, but this is like markedly different in some direct regards. So this is market segmentation, right? And like there's the more traditional market segmentation from marketers, right? Is you break your segments either by demographics, psychographics, behavioral, or geographic. Though geographic I think applies less so to digital products. So one that I like out of the, I think this comes from the Lean product playbook, is needs-based segmentation. So what do we mean when we mean like demographic segmentation? That's pretty direct, but yeah, it's the demographics of your possible markets. So either gender, age, income, parental status, so parents versus non-parents, pet if they have pets, right? Country of origin, a bunch of other things that go into demographics that you can segment your market by demographics. Psychographics are like how your users feel about certain things. or their interest, especially. If like I'll keep picking on UI because I understand your product and everything fairly well, I think. So like if you were to talk about demographics, you could say, one of the segmentations is people that are natively born Sri Lankans versus people that are not natively born Sri Lankans but still enjoy Sri Lankan spices. Psychographics, you could divide along the lines of people that are interested in cooking and versus people that are interested in just like I'm trying to think of how, but like the Instagram, I look at my spice rack type thing, right? So those are two different psychographic segmentations. I know that's kind of a weird one. I'm grasping at straws a little bit for psychographics, right? But those are ways you like segment over your psychographics. So again, like these are the interests or different opinions. Behavioral segmentation is like the actions your users take in segmenting by the actions that they take. This could be, you could say behavioral segmentations are someone who has visited and purchased Sri Lankan cinnamon in the past month versus someone who's never purchased Sri Lankan cinnamon, right? Or someone that has performed research on Sri Lankan spices versus someone who has not performed research. So that's a very direct segmentation because you can look at the behaviors that they've performed. And then, so the last one being like needs-based segmentation. So this segments your market based upon the actual needs that they have. This could be for different reasons, right? But like the need being that like someone needs Sri Lankan spices, that could be either they need them for again for cooking. They need them, I don't know, for art projects, let's say, and they want to do some like interesting artwork with Sri Lankan spices. Those are like different needs that they might have. But at the end of the day, what they really need is Sri Lankan spices. So like you're segmenting those needs across different market segments. Any questions about like market segmentation or how this works, or like deeper dives into any of the specific market segments?
If I want to sell a pet, so how this behavioral segmentation will apply for the pet?
Sorry, for a what?
Suppose I want to sell a rabbit. So I understood the demographic segmentation.
Mm-hmm.
Then how the behavioral segmentation will apply for this one?
For a rabbit?
Yeah.
I guess it'd be here's one. Someone who is a rabbit breeder or who has like bred rabbits in the past 2 months. First, or actually, here's a better one. Someone who's purchased rabbit food in the past month. That's like an action they could have performed that would indicate like, oh, this is probably a person that's interested in owning more rabbits, or someone that has like recently researched rabbit cages in the last month.
Oh, okay. Means about the food and okay, I got it. Yeah.
Does that help? Okay, cool. Yeah. So these are segmentation and personas are both. They are related concepts. Personas, like we said, they're more like discrete representations. And your persona can actually represent a few different market segments. There's I think it's in About Face that they get into like the difference between market segmentation and personas. the purpose of market segmentation is to assess the size and viability of the market. Persona's purpose is to build a exemplar person that's going to use your product. So market segmentation, you ask less about like what makes them tick, what are they interested in, what you're just kind of finding ways to divide your market up so you can access size. Yes, segmentation is a much more broad category than a persona. Exactly. Yeah. So segment, you're saying I got 10,000 people. How do I like divide these 10,000 people? Oh, well, of those 10,000, 8,000 of them, it turns out, are, 20 to 30. And then another 2,000 are 30 to 50, right? Cool. Those are two like unique segments within my market. And especially this bleeds more into like the product marketing management, but you market differently to those different market segments.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions about market segmentation? Okay. SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is fun. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's quite often, at least the mental model of it is done in this kind of matrix-based way. With, again, you can see like strengths and opportunities are helpful things, and weaknesses and threats are things that are harmful. And then if you think of where like the origin or like the locus of control are, strengths are and weaknesses are something like within your organization, and opportunities and threats are something that is like external to your organization. So when we talk about strengths, these are strengths that you have. So SWOT analysis, I should clarify, is comparing your organization or your product versus your competitors' organizations or products. So we talked about the strengths. These are the strengths you have over your competitors. This could be like product excellence. So you just straight up have a better product than your competitors. It could be something like internal or external resources. So you might have, you could have someone with like a PhD in some niche field that person doesn't, they're like they're 1 in 10 million, right? That person is a very rare individual, and they have a very, very deep set of knowledge about something that you're going to build a product around, or you yourself might have that, right? So that could be a strength that you have. Also, and this applies especially to large corporations, but you could have more money, more resources. You could have things like proprietary technology that your competitors don't, or intellectual properties that your competitors don't. That also, I think, applies to like patents and stuff like that. So if you have like patented technology that your competitors don't have access to, that is a strength they may have. So to contrast that, weaknesses are, so if you lack in your organization, you lack certain skills or capabilities that your competitors do have. Again, imagine that PhD doctoral person that has some kind of crazy like a bioengineering knowledge, and they wrote their doctoral thesis was on some crazy bioengineering thing that I can't understand now. Your competitors could have that person on staff, and you do not, right? You don't have someone who's comparable in skill set or capabilities as that person. Again, talking about product excellence, their product could be better. Like the UI might be much more intuitive. It might be like higher quality, less buggy. Their product might show up faster, or their customer service organization might be stronger than yours are. Those are weaknesses. Another weakness that you could have are like to contrast that with like lots of resources, you get limited resources. So maybe you are constrained from a capital perspective. Maybe you only have at large organizations, maybe you can only allocate so many headcount to work on your product, and your competitor can allocate more headcount. Maybe your competitor has like intellectual property that you don't have access to, so you have to internally grow your own IP or your own assets or proprietary technology. So there are some weaknesses that you could have. Opportunities. So like I think the most important opportunity, you could find markets that are either underserved or burgeoning and growing, especially ones that your competitors don't have insight into. So especially I'll take your example, Ivy. You might see the growth of like Sri Lankan imports more than like a larger company that's like they're looking at things at a very macro scale, and you're looking at things at a a relatively micro scale. So you might have an opportunity to be like a fast mover into a market before larger competitors actually have that. So you might have identified and start leveraging an underserved market. Also, if there's few competitors, yeah, that's a great opportunity. If there's very few people, if you do a Google search, right, and we'll actually get into search trends in a little bit, but you might have you might just literally not find any great competitor products out there. Great. If there's no competitor products out there, it usually means one of two things. Either you have discovered an opportunity that people have not thought about, or there's not a market for your product. So that that's where you want to do some further research, but definitely. And some other opportunities you can have. So if you have external press, blog posts, YouTube videos, whatever, this can go back to strengths too. So if you have the resources to pay for people to like review your product or leave comments or whatever about your product, that could be an opportunity that you have. And again, to contrast that with threats, so contrasting with few competitors, right? If there are emerging competitors, if you start building your product and then you see someone else enter the market with a very similar product, or something that like basically it might be a different product, but it still addresses like the root problem that you've identified in your customers. Someone building out new products like that. Regulations are a huge one. I can only speak for the U.S. right now, but like there's some changing landscape in the tech world right now with regulations and lawsuits and antitrust things. So that's definitely a threat. So changing government sentiment about different organizations, or again, like new regulations that either constrict your market or constrain your ability to grow and do work. Going back to like the external sources, so they can be great opportunities. They also can be huge threats, right? If someone leaves a scathing review of your product and it gets a million views on YouTube or something like that, that could definitely be a threat. And that's without going on too much of a tangent, why it's very important to have a strong like social media marketing capability within your organization, or be very, very reactive to growing threats in like social media, because things can take on a viral nature. Yeah, and then I hinted on a little bit with like government regulations, but also like changing attitudes from your customer base. Going back to like, you might have heard the term like the techlash. I don't know if that's a global thing or if it's just a US thing, right? But there's like this growing trend of people like being less accommodating to some of the large tech companies. So that could be a threat. You know, like there's the whole like delete your Facebook trend going on. That's definitely a threat to Facebook. Though ironically, they still have Instagram and a bunch of other. They have WhatsApp and a lot of other. They have a fairly diversified portfolio. So even though folks are advocating deleting Facebook, they exist in many other arenas. So that could be a threat. Again, if Facebook's smart, they just pivot into new areas. So yeah, that is SWOT analysis. I was thinking let's take Shopee through a SWOT analysis, and let's just like kind of think of how this works. So either you can shout it out or type it in the chat. Like, what do you think some of Shopee's strengths are right now? There you go. I see they have everything under the sun, right? So that's a strength. They have a very diversified offering of products. What are some other strengths? Yeah, different vendors to choose from. Yeah. What about where Shopee is in markets? I know they're like in Taiwan, Singapore. I think they have something in Brazil. I believe like Indonesia. Is there like are there? I honestly don't know how ubiquitous Amazon is outside of the U.S., but I think Amazon is a competitor to Shopee. Or definitely, is it Alibaba? No, Alibaba is a search engine, right? Or is Alibaba the Chinese Amazon? I forget. Up-to-date trending products. Okay, so up-to-date trending products, right? That I don't know. I've never worked at Shopee before, but especially I think maybe the ability to surf it. So like you said, Shopee has everything under the sun, right? But also you see the up-to-date trending products, right? So what I'm implying there is they might have really good algorithms to find out what like the trends are. You know, they might have, you know, like they can see what people are buying in a market or a area, and then start bubbling those products up at, you know, and get kind of like in front of the trend, start getting it in front of people's faces to like, you know, and then that has kind of the snowball effect of like they almost create the trend. You know, they see a trend growing and then they exponentially grow that trend. So yeah, that could be like an internal resource. They might have really strong algorithms to actuate and build out trends like that. Cool. Yeah, endorse celebrities, right? So that's a resources. That's a few things, right? That's like external validation from like that's an opportunity, but it's also like they have the money to. I know there was something with I think it was like a Korean pop band maybe that they did like a whole collab with. Again, forgive me if I don't fully understand some of the cultural things. But yeah, like Shopee has had like celebrity endorsements, which like they have the money to pay these. There might be celebrities out there that are like just like endorsing Shopee out of the, you know, because they love it so much. That's actually even better. Blackpink, yes, thank you, Blackpink. But it also could be, you know, they might be paying Blackpink, you know, umpteen bajillion dollars to say they love Shopee. You know, it's great. I love Shopee. You know, so that costs a lot of money. But also, like, I assume they did the calculation and the ROI on getting those celebrity endorsements was worth the investment. But it's not cheap, right? Cool. Yeah, catering to local languages. So that might be something as well. It's as someone who's had a lot of experience with localization, right? Localization is very hard to do right, and you have to have a like, you can't just Google Translate your way into localization. You have to have someone like, because the translations, I'm sure you've seen this, but they don't always translate quite. It might be like the literal translation, but it's not like the intent is lost in that translation. So if they have a strong like trend, if you don't see weird idiosyncrasies in the local language, that's definitely a strength. Cool. So let's talk about some weaknesses. What do you think are maybe some weaknesses of Shopee? Again, think of like lack of resources, competitors. That might be something. But are there any weaknesses that you can think of Shopee right now? Okay, so it's similarity to their competitors. So there's not a whole lot of like product differentiation between them and their competitors. So right when um, okay, cool. So when you end up with very, very similar like promotions, people start thinking of your product not as like a product, but as almost as a commodity, right? It's like buying a bar of soap. It's like, whatever. I'll go to like they just say like the online shopping thing. It's no longer a brand name or whatever. They're just getting like the thing, right? So yeah, if there's not a clear differentiation like promotion, especially I know. Again, I'm going to use Amazon as my example because that's what I'm more familiar with. But like we just had Prime Day, but now it turns out like Target, right? I don't know how global Target is, but like at least a U.S. based seller, kind of like Walmart, is like also doing things essentially like Prime Day. Same with like Walmart. Same with all these other like large retailers are essentially doing their own Prime Day thing. Okay, so it sounds like they don't have great. Cool. Prime Day is no longer cheap. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. It's now almost become a marketing technique rather than actual saving for. Yeah. That's that. I know there's some like interesting articles about like when Prime Day is coming up. At least for Amazon, right? You see like the prices actually increase prior to Prime Day, and then exactly your point, like the savings is not, you still save on the product, but you save less on the product than it would have been had they not even increased the price a little. Like they like tick the price up a little bit prior to Prime Day, so it is like a marketing trick a little bit, right? And they're playing on people's you see 33% off, you're like, oh wow, that's a great deal, and you actually kind of ignore what the price is, what it was historically, and all that. So if you ever want to dive down a rabbit hole, there's some really great articles where they track the prices over time, and you see this like on a lot of prices, you see a weird uptick in price prior to Prime Day coming in. Cool. For Shopee, what opportunities do you think Shopee has? So again, these like underserved markets or competitors or like emerging and growing needs. So what opportunities do you see for Shopee right now? Okay, online grocery. Yeah. Same here, right? In the US, like I'd never done online grocery shopping prior to COVID hitting here, but like now I don't see a really compelling reason to walk inside grocery stores ever. It's a lot easier for me just to like pull my phone up, mash some buttons on it, put stuff in my cart, and then go pick it up. And ironically, I'm actually saving money now too, because I'm less prone to like seeing something on the aisle and just making impulse purchases too. Yeah. So definitely an opportunity for online grocery. I don't know like what again, like Amazon owns Whole Foods here. Yeah, definitely opportunity. Like I think, we would be we'd be remiss if we didn't address the COVID as a huge opportunity for online platforms, right? Online shopping has increased dramatically in the past like half year, right? So that is definitely an opportunity they have. what about like the markets? I know they moved into Brazil, which is like definitely a different. Okay, cool. Yep, different regions with strong. Okay, payment. Quite frankly, I don't know how their payment processing works, but if it's if they have like an easy to use payment system, or they're working on it, that's definitely an opportunity to expand more into payments. Right, they have a lot of people's payment information now, so that's an easy like pivot into payment processing and all that. Cool. What about threats? Is there any like threats that you see to Shopee right now? And especially think about if there's any like, again, like techlash going on, but if there's any like regional regulations that are starting to emerge, again, without being like political, just being like factual about like regulations that might exist, or existing competitors that are starting to grow, or any like negative press or media they've gotten recently, or anything like that, or I guess the changing customer attitudes. So what threats can you think of for Shopee right now? Okay, more vendors have their own online stores. Yeah, there's definitely like starting to be diversification in the online shopping systems. Like D2C and drop shipping, all that is becoming more and more pervasive. Any other like upcoming or current threats you can think of for Shopee? All right. More vendors have their own online stores. Less demand. Okay, less demand. Cool. What do you think is driving less demand? Maybe. I know, like again, in the U.S., there's definitely some economic challenges going on. I think with folks, like they have less. Generally, people have less available. Like people are saving more and spending less. In general, I know that has for right now, it's translated into more online sales because like physical retailers are like literally less available. But that could, I think, yes, same with like Amazon, right? People could start just literally spending less money overall, and that could be a threat to Amazon as well as Shopee, right? I don't know again what's going on in literally the other side of the world right now. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I see you're talking about people are spending more on the like necessities and less on leisure type things. In leisure, right? Leisure is typically product wise where you have your highest markups. So you make the most profit off like leisure or lifestyle type products. Cool. All right. Let us talk about let me see, what time is it? It's 8:53. Someone's coming on at 9:30. How many more slides do we have to get through real fast? Cool. I think we'll skip over customer discovery planning technique. This is an interesting one. I strongly recommend you check out Inspired by Marty Kagan. This is chapter.
Daddy, I want to toast some
Okay, but
Daddy,
Colin, hold on, bud.
I want it. I'm hungry though.
Yeah, so customer discovery technique is chapter. No, I'm going too big. Chapter 39 of Inspired by Marty Kagan. I will drop the link for this book also in the group chat in a moment. But yeah, chapter 39 goes into this, the discovery program technique. It's really great. But yeah, we're a little crunched for time, so we'll proceed through. So let's talk about total. Have you all heard the term total addressable market before? I assume you might have at some point in time, but what do you think of when you think of like the total addressable market? Sorry, I was having a tough time getting off mute. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Market cap, yeah, that's market cap technically is like the technical term, at least in the US, for like your market capitalization. That's like how much money you have in the publicly traded markets. But so if you think of like these concentric circles, right, your total addressable market is like everyone in the world that possibly could be a user of your product. So if we think of iPhones, right, essentially their total addressable market is like everyone that could use an iPhone on where the mobile network for iPhones are available, right? That's a big number. It's, I don't know, except for like parts of the world where either iPhones are not allowed, right? There's not, the device is literally unavailable because of like regulations, or there are too remote that the mobile network that the mobile networks that the iPhones are on, at least in the US, their iPhones are available for all the major mobile network carriers. So locations where the network for the mobile phone is not available, that is a very small group of, like, there's more people in the world than there are not potential iPhone users. You'll see people throw out that total addressable market statistic because it looks really nice on paper. You know, there's like the total addressable market for the iPhone is, call it 6.5 billion people. Like, oh my God, that's a lot of people. But that's kind of a naive approach. So I always caution against when someone throws out a TAM, or a total addressable market number. You want to think about it then, like, you want to subdivide that. So the next layer down of your total addressable market is your serviceable available market. So this is of if we were to take the iPhone as an example, the first one being like everyone that technically can use it. The next part is like, so of all those people that technically the iPhone is allowed in their region, and they are somewhere where the mobile network gets to them, how many of them actually have like the available funds to buy, whatever, call it $1,000 iPhone? Oh, that number just now decreased fairly dramatically, right? There's a lot less people in the world that have like the disposable income to buy the iPhone now. Okay, cool. Like, this is our serviceable available market. Like, we just chopped maybe 6.5 billion down to like 1 billion or something like that. Easy. The next layer down, and this is the one that you probably want to focus in the most, is like your serviceable obtainable market. So of your like serviceable available market, how much of that market can you actually capture? So again, taking the iPhone, and we'll use like the iPhone 12 as a specific example. So of all those people that can afford so of all the people that, the phone is allowed in their area and they have the mobile network available, and of all the people that have like the disposable income to purchase the phone, how many of those? Oh, thank you. That's a good point. And since it's iPhone 12 is 5G, I wouldn't say having a 5G network available is a hard requirement, because it will still work on 4G networks, right? It's one of the major selling points of the iPhone 12, right? So I would strongly consider like iPhone 12 being a subdivision too. So in addition to that, of all those people, how many of them are looking for a new phone? Like either their old cell phone plan is about to end and they're on some kind of cell phone plan where, you know, you sign up for like a 2-year deal in the mobile company like subsidizes your phone. So how many of those people have that going on? Or how many people have a super old phone and they're just ready to change? Or, you know, you also have the like early adopters. So how many of the people are just going to buy the iPhone 12 because they have the 11 and they're like, this thing's old now. Yeah, I want the latest and greatest. That's your serviceable, obtainable market. So that's like how many people, either in a quantitative number of like literally human beings, or you can also figure it in a like a currency related thing. So like, you know, how many, you know, whatever, hundreds of thousands all the way up to technically trillions of dollars are available of all these like subdivisions of the market for you to capture with your product. There's 2 ways that you can calculate this. So you can calculate that like from a top-down approach. If you think about it from these circles, right? This is kind of the top-down approach. You look at your total addressable market, you subdivide that into your serviceable available market, you subdivide that into your obtainable market. The bottoms-up approach is you would look for like everyone that has this certain attribute, and then add on to that everyone else that has an additional attribute that makes them still part of the obtainable market. And then you'd add on another layer of like, oh, okay, you know, of all the people, again, like we looked at all the people that are, so you look at all your early, so you, again, bottoms up would be like, let's find all your early adopters of iPhones. Cool. That's one, plus all your people that have cell phone plans about to expire and are like in time for the iPhone 12, plus 2, plus 3, you know. So I think if you think about it this way, you're either doing additive market analysis or subtractive market analysis. Subtractive would be like the top-down approach. You start wide and you narrow down. Bottoms up would be you start narrow and you add on to that. Any questions about like assessing market size, thoughts on this? How do you measure? Yeah, so that's there's not, it's a little hard to answer this because there's not a one size fits all. So can you give me a specific example and we'll like work through how I would measure that one. Anyone? Okay, well, I'll take the iPhone 12 as one that I would measure from a bottoms up approach. So again, I would take, if I wanted to calculate my serviceable and obtainable market from a bottoms up approach, I would from a BlackBerry. Yeah, I don't know if people are. What do you mean by speaker, Kriti? Okay, speakers, cool. Yeah, I'll take something a little more granular. Yeah, Huawei. Again, without getting too political, Huawei is not allowed in the U.S., so I have a tough time doing the math on that one. So I don't know what markets Huawei is available in, unfortunately. I'll take so you know, like the sound bars that you can hook up to your TV, like the nice looking. It's like a speaker that you add to your TV. We'll take that one as like a we'll do a bottoms up approach for the SOM of like a speaker bar. So you would look at of all the people that won. So let's say your sound bar, yeah, like a Sonos I'm going to use US dollars. My apologies. I don't know the currency exchange. Like a Sonos, I think is like around $200, right? $200. So, okay. Of that, how many people have the disposable? Well, this is a top-down approach, bottoms up. So I would look at how many people own televisions that do not currently have like external sound systems like a Sonos, right? And I think Sonos connects through Bluetooth. So on top of that, how many of them own like like a smart TV with a Bluetooth receiver on it? Great. Okay, cool. Let's say and I'm gonna narrow it down to a specific market. So like in Singapore, how many people have a smart TV that don't currently have an external sound thing that has Bluetooth on it? Let's say that's like 1.5 million. I'm just throwing numbers in there. Okay, cool. In addition, or let's say that's like 1 million. Of those folks, how many have looked for a new sound bar? What, Cullen? Sorry, my child is now late for his remote schooling, and he's yelling at me for it for some weird reason. So yeah, so of all those people, how many have like recently looked for have recently researched Sonos and or like sound equipment? And I will literally just get into Google Trends here in a second and do that. So cool. That's like, it looks like it's like 1.5 million people in Singapore right now. I'm going to target those 1.5 million people in Singapore to try and sell them Sonos versus a competitor's product. That's like my obtainable market. Usually when you do like a SOM calculation, you also want to like have like, this is a gut call, but like somewhere like a realistic scenario. Like, I don't think we're going to capture 100% of the market. I think we can capture 35% of that market. So like, oh, there's 1 million people. I think we can capture 350,000 of those 1 million people, like realistically. So you'd make that your like goal for your SOM to capture. If that helps explain that a little bit. This is not like Tam and Sam and SOM are not. It's not an exact science. You're really almost looking for like orders of magnitude. So are we talking hundreds of thousands or millions or billions, right? Because that lets you know kind of the return on investment for what you build, and lets you know kind of how scalable your product has to be. So if you're going to expect thousands of people to show up to buy this, cool. Make a site or an app that is provisioned appropriately for like thousands of people. If you have something that you think 1 billion people are going to show up and try and buy, get ready for like a flood. Like, again, Apple iPhone 12, they're getting that site ready for like maybe billions of people, at least hundreds of millions of people to show up and try and buy that phone on day one. So yeah. Cool. Search trends. How many more slides do we have to get through? We have search trends, crowdfunding. Okay, then we want to talk about HDD a little bit. Cool. So this is search trends. It's really cool. I am not going to make a plug for Google, but this is a great resource if you want to start looking things up. So search trends, you can find how popular something is by literally just going to trends.google.com. You can see how many people in the world are looking for, like, here's a great one. Not a great one. My apologies. This is a useful one. Coronavirus search trends, right? It looks like, wow, Germany is really looking for it, and the rest of the world is looking for it pretty regularly. Again, full transparency, certain markets, this will not be available in, and explicitly, like, this will not be available in China, which is quite a large market, and I think a little more relevant for y'all in Singapore. But like search trends, there might be something comparable in the Chinese market. I can't speak intelligently about it, but I'm going to look up Sonos, and in Singapore. Cool. This is how many people, so this is not like a quantitative measurement, right? But so it measures it by percentages. So interest over time. So you can see like Sonos, for some reason, July 26th to August 1st had a big spike in traffic. That was literally like the peak of its traffic. It's dipped. It's here. And we'll compare Sonos to Sony. This is not going to be a great example. But look, people are looking for Sony a lot more. Probably because Sony is more like Sony's a much PlayStation 5 probably has a lot to do with this as well, right? But yeah, like Sony is searched for substantially more than Sonos right now. You can also start narrowing this down. It has all these like related queries that you can start breaking out, which is cool. Sorry, interest by city. Like Singapore is like the same thing for region or city, right? Fun fact of Singapore, I think that doesn't apply to anywhere else in the world, but yeah, cool. You can start breaking it down by months. You can do all, like you can break it down by either image or news searches, shopping, YouTube. I think internet and telco, enterprise technology. Actually, let's look for technical support. This is how much people have been looking for. Like, okay, so eventually you get to a point to where you get too granular, and you won't be able to find Google search results for these things. So, consumer resources. Let's see if that works. Cool. So this could be like people searching about how to do some of these things. But so this is a really interesting tool. I strongly recommend you going to trends.google.com and just playing around with it for a little while. Just like literally think of things that might be interesting to look up, and you can find all kinds of things in there. Most importantly, if you feel like you are on, Bose probably would have been a better example than Sony. Thank you. To look for. That's a much more like narrow. Actually, we'll do it. Sonos. We'll do Sonos versus Bose. Sorry, I'm just looking in the US. But cool. Look, I don't know why this happened. Maybe it's Black Friday, probably. Yep. This is a Black Friday thing, right? Let me explain. If y'all don't know what Black Friday is, right? The Thanksgiving, right? US holiday. The day after Thanksgiving, there's huge sales in anticipation for Christmas. So you can see a big uptick in like the Black Friday week. Another one getting pretty close. So this is all the people like me that freak out at the last minute and realize they haven't bought their family anything and starts rapidly searching the internet. Or maybe this could be like post-Christmas. So a lot of things go on sale, right? Post-Christmas. So you see these like fun upticks. And Sonos, or Bose, right? Bose must have, I don't know what happened in this week, but maybe Bose released a new device or something. I'm actually surprised Bose, especially, I would have thought, given like I have a Bose headset right now, this would have seen an uptick in like the work from home trends, but it hasn't. Really surprising to me, but yeah. Check out trends.google.com. This is a very, very useful tool when you're doing product or when you're doing market validation. Again, like you can export this, I think, into like CSV format. Yeah, okay. So it makes it into a CSV. If you're not familiar with CSV, it's basically like a spreadsheet. It also can be fed, like it literally stands for comma separated values. But you can hand that off to like a technical research team, like, hey, like we did some research, great, like go do a bunch of like computations on this research and all that stuff. And you can add tons and tons of like other things. You can keep adding. You see everyone gets an uptick. I'm actually surprised the PS5 has not seen more activity. I would think this would be spikier with the PS5 announcements and everything, but whatever, cool. So there we go. This is Google Trends. Any other questions about Trends right now? Thoughts? Areas you see you could use this for building out your products? Okay, cool. I'm just talk briefly about crowdfunding. This applies, I think, very much to those of y'all that are wanting to build your own startup. I just strongly recommend you go check out crowdfunding if you're not familiar with it, right? It's like you throw an idea out there in the public market in these crowdfunding platforms, and people choose to invest in your thing, right? They're slightly different. Like Kickstarter, you have to hit like a certain goal. Patreon is like a monthly payment. Coffee is a little different than Patreon and Coffee are similar. But yeah, like look up if you haven't done it yet and you are starting your own organization product type thing, check out crowdfunding. It's a great way to, one, get upfront capitalization so you can start getting money like now, rather than having to worry about selling your product. It also is a great way to validate if the market exists for your product. If people are willing to give you money before your product is actually available, you have a valid problem to solve, and you have a valid market out there. You've already technically created your market if you find crowdfunding upfront. So yeah, like I said, there's lots of options for that. Okay, cool. We got 15 minutes left. I apologize. I don't think we'll have time for a break before next person comes on, but we will run through hypothesis-driven design real fast. There's all these different quote-unquote driven design methodologies, behavior-driven design, test-driven design, blah, blah, blah. A lot of that gets very much into the weeds of technical terminology. I don't want to debate all those. They're all great and they have their merits. One that I think is very useful for people starting, like doing entrepreneurship and people working in the product management space, is hypothesis-driven design. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use the scientific method to see if our thing is real and then build it. What is a hypothesis? We believe that insert a capability will result in insert some sort of outcome. We know we will succeed when we see some measurable signal attained. So let me give you an example. We believe that people will purchase the iPhone 12, will result in revenue increase of, I don't know what, however many bajillion dollars. We will know we succeeded when we observe, insert in here, 100 million signups for the iPhone 12 announcement launch or something like that. So that's a hypothesis that you could build a product around. I'm sorry, it's not a great example, but I need more coffee at this point in time. So yeah, that's like an example of a hypothesis. How do we test our hypothesis? So again, we've talked about like you're going out in the world and you notice something. It's a unique observation. It's something that you feel is worth investigating further. What do you do when you seek some sort of like supporting data and try and stay analytical? Again, don't have a solution in search of a problem, right? Keep it in the problem space. We just looked at Google Trends. Great place to start seeking supporting data that your problem really exists, right? You write your hypothesis down. You write down, we believe that this capability will result in this outcome. We know we exceed when we observe a measurable signal. Great, you have a hypothesis. Talking about like the scientific method, you also want to write a null hypothesis. A null hypothesis is like literally the opposite of your hypothesis. So you could say, we believe that customers joining this like community increases product growth. The opposite would be customers joining this community doesn't increase product growth, right? The reason you want a hypothesis and a null hypothesis is you want to disprove your null hypothesis when you are testing your hypothesis, right? So you want to prove your hypothesis. You prove your hypothesis by also disproving your null hypothesis. I don't talk about it here. We'll talk about it in a minute. So once you've written down these two hypotheses, I think that's the plural of hypothesis, you want to actually construct like an experiment plan. What should be in your experiment plan? So you talk about who you expect to impact, like who essentially your target customer is, or your primary persona, right, that you want to impact with your experiment. You need to find ways to have a control group and an experimental group. Your control group is one that does not get the test applied to them. Your experimental group is the one that does get the test applied to them. From a technical perspective, there's literally like all kinds of technical frameworks that will expose. I think we talked about A/B testing a little bit before. Like this could go into A/B testing. But there's technical frameworks that will expose a certain subset of users to a different treatment than your normal users. So yeah, you have to find some way to like have a control and experiment group. This is something you can like research independently of how to make control and experiment groups. The problem is there's not like a one size fits all answer here, because it depends on what your experiment is, of how you maintain a control and experiment group. I just want to say that it's critical to prove your hypothesis to have a control and experiment group. You want to identify your primary metric or metrics that are going to prove your hypothesis. Like your hypothesis should state explicitly, we know our hypothesis is true if we observe like a quantitative metric increase, decrease, change, blah, 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 like some kind of change in that. It also helps sometimes have like secondary metrics. These are all almost like controlling metrics. As an example, if you're trying to like reduce cost in something, you want to reduce cost, but not at the expense of like quality, right? You always want to find that balance between like quality and cost. That is an example of a second, like quality would be like an secondary metric if your primary metric was cost. So think of like what secondary metrics are, almost what contrasting metrics you want to keep track of as well, to make sure you don't end up, a fix over here doesn't cause a problem over here. You need to obviously describe in your experiment plan, you need to describe the change that you're trying to implement. And then you want to establish an experiment timeline. So like say this experiment will, be 2 weeks in length, starting on date X and ending on date Y. And that way, either when you're conducting the experiment, or if you hand the experiment plan off to someone else to build, they know when to like enable the control group, experiment group capability, when to like provide the new treatment, and when to end that so you can collect results. And then you execute the experiment plan. And like I call out, please try not to influence the outcomes. Like let the experiment go. The whole purpose of doing this is to have an objective analysis without outside influences. Then you want to interpret your results, right? So how do you interpret your results? You compare the metrics that you observed for your control group and your experimental group. Did your control group see an increase in your primary metric? If no, did your experimental group see an increase in your primary metric? If yes, cool. Your experiment was probably successful. You do want to look for like hidden contributors, especially this can go into like more macro scale changes. If there's any like weird geopolitical changes or socioeconomic changes that happen, I've had things happen in the external markets that have really ruined my experiments. It's a real bummer, but you pick up the pieces and you re-execute the experiment again when there is more of a steady state in the market you're experimenting in. An important call out is like correlation versus causation, right? Or correlation versus causality. What that means is you want to look for like A causes B, not like A happened and B happened. A happened and B happened is a correlation, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that like what happened with A caused B to happen. That's the important part of having a null hypothesis. Your null hypothesis helps combat correlative effects. Your null hypothesis helps you to reinforce that like the observed change in metrics was causal in nature. You also, there's a statistical significance is a very complicated, crunchy subject. I would recommend you just like research statistical significance. There's literally online, like I think it's like SurveyMonkey and a few other sites have like really good statistical significance calculators where you just put in like what's your total group size, what's your p-value, which is basically like the confidence you want to have. Usually it's like 5%, or when you say your p-value is 5%, the same that you have like 95% confidence that the results are accurate, and a few other metrics. So again, like statistical significance is like really complicated to calculate. Thankfully, there's easy calculators out there for you to use, but you want to find like your statistically significant numbers. So you make sure that you perform your experiment so that it's significant. You want to then build an experiment readout. So like, again, if you're at like a large enterprise company and you conduct an experiment, you want to have an objective. This is not like, you don't want to say your experiment won, right? Because there's no winning in hypotheses. There's either your hypothesis was proven or disproven. Have a readout, present it to your leadership, be like, okay, we had a hypothesis. We proved that the hypothesis was accurate. Therefore, we interpret that we need to like build out this new feature in the product, or enter into this new market with the product, or whatever kind of the hypothesis you were trying to test was. Cool. We've got 3 minutes left. What questions do you have about hypothesis-driven design? I know that's a very, very brief overview of that. Okay, cool. With the last 2 minutes, some quick logistics announcements. Assignment 2, I uploaded this morning. My apologies. I thought I had it up there earlier. What do you mean by make a slogan to encourage? I'll give you a minute to answer, but I'll go through logistics because we're short on time. So assignment 2 should be up in Google Classroom now. Again, my apologies. I thought I had uploaded earlier. I had in like some weird draft mode. I am learning how Google Classroom works right now. I will have assignment 3. Assignment 3 will be centered around building a hypothesis and you doing a brief write-up of like what problem validation and market validation techniques you would like to use. You are not constrained, obviously, to the ones we just talked about today. You can do your own external research. There's lots of other product and market validation techniques available, but let's make a quick, a brief hypothesis document, and we'll review those in 2 classes time. I will get that assignment actually up today, not in draft mode, but in its final mode. With that, I thank you all for your time. And I believe someone is coming on for the last 30 minutes to talk briefly about Shopify capabilities. Any other questions for me? Thanks, everyone. Have a good yes, rest of your evening. We'll talk again on Tuesday.
Okay, hi everyone. It's Jaylene here again. If you remember me from the, I think like last week, we covered a session on Shopify. Okay, so if you recall last week, I was saying that we still have a little bit to cover on Shopify before we can let the store go live. So today for the last half an hour, I'll be going through with you what settings you need to actually complete on Shopify, including setting up the shipping rates. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, so I understand that maybe some of you, the Shopify trial may have expired. So not to worry. For today's session, you can just watch my demo on the screen. So you won't need to do it alongside with me. Okay, but next time if you're going to set up your own Shopify store, you can always refer back to this recording to look at the steps again. Okay, so hang on, let me share my screen. Okay, so if you recall last week, we were at this step where we have built our website. So we did a couple of things. We set up our products and also collections. We did our website design as well. Okay, and we also learned how to do the navigation, set up things like a tracking page, contact page. Okay, so today I want to run through with you some settings that you need to complete. Okay, so let's start with setting up the shipping rates on Shopify. Okay, so you can just look at my screen for this. Okay, so to assess the shipping rates, the first thing you need to do is go to your Shopify settings. Okay, and under the settings, you'll see that there's an option here called shipping and delivery. Okay, and under shipping and delivery, you can just go to this tab that says manage your rates. Okay, and here you can see that I have some shipping rates that I pre-set up for this store. Okay, but if you haven't set up any rates, you will this will be blank, so you won't see any rates here. So you can easily create your rates, right? Okay, so before that, to understand like how the shipping rates are set up, you have to understand that in Shopify, we can actually create different shipping zones. Okay, so you can see here that I have two different zones. So my first zone is called domestic, and the second zone that I've set up is called rest of the world. So to set up your shipping zone, you can just go to create shipping zone, and you can give your zone a name. So for example, you can name it local or like overseas, or whatever zone name you want to put. So this is for internal reference, okay? And you can actually select all the countries that you want to show up in the zone, okay? So after you select the countries that you're shipping to, so for this domestic zone, you can see that I've only selected Singapore. Okay, so what this means is that for this set of shipping rates here, only customers in Singapore are going to see this set of rates, okay, and these prices. Whereas for this second zone where I call it the rest of the world, which is all the other countries, I have a different shipping rate here, which is, you can see I have here standard shipping for $20. So this is a different set of shipping rates, right? Okay, so if a customer is coming from, let's say the US, and they will be considered from the rest of the world, so they fall under this second zone. So they will not be seeing the same rates as another customer from Singapore. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So customers from Singapore will see the domestic zone, the rates in the domestic zone, and customers from the rest of the world will see the rates in the rest of the world zone. Okay, and you can also set up like other zones accordingly if you have different rates for each zone. Okay, so to go into how to set up the rates, okay, very simple. You can just click on add rate. Okay, and you can see here that you can set up your own rates and you can give it a name. So for example, you might want to call it standard shipping. Okay, and you can set the price for your shipping rate. Or if it's free, you might want to put free standard shipping, and you can just set the price at $0. So for the customer, it will show up as free shipping. Okay. Okay, so another thing about this shipping rate is that you can actually set up conditions for your shipping rates. Okay, so what this means is that, so for example, if on my website I have an offer for, recall my website, I have this offer, I'm saying that I'm offering free shipping on all orders over $80. Okay, so I can actually set this up to reflect accordingly. So I can put, for example, free express shipping above $80. Okay, and I can make it $0, so it's free. Okay, but now I want it to show up for customers who have spent at least $80 on my website. Okay, I don't want all customers to be seeing this free shipping rate. Okay, so to do that, you can actually set up conditions. Okay, and you can set up this condition called based on order price. Okay, you can set a minimum price such as $80. Okay, so this is telling Shopify that the customer has to purchase a minimum of $80 to see this shipping rate that says free express shipping above $80 for free. Okay. Okay, you can also set up shipping rate. You can also set another condition to be based on the item weight. Okay, but this one is, I would say this makes sense more if like you want to charge the customer according to the weight of the parcel. Okay, so you can also set it according to the weight. And how Shopify knows the order weight is that you can change the weight values within the product itself. So if you recall last week, we were doing our product editor. So one of the options is that you can set a weight for each particular item. Okay, so that's about it for the shipping rates. So later I will do a live demo on the store that we built. Okay, to show you like the customer journey to purchasing from your store, and then how this shipping rate actually looks for the customer. Okay, so the next thing you want to set up after your shipping rates is you want to go to your settings. Okay, and you want to set up your payments collection. Okay, what if, I have a question in the chat from Teresa. So just to address, what if it's not above $80, say above $50? Okay, so very simple. So let me just go back to the rates. Okay, so very simple for this, you can, so instead of $80, you would want to change it to $50. Okay, and then you might want to change this as well. So you tell the customer it's free shipping above $50, and you set the condition that the customer has to meet a minimum price of $50 for them to see this free shipping option. Okay. Okay, so now the next section is to set up your payment collection. Okay, so this is important. If not, you won't be able to receive any payment from your customers. Okay, and that's one of the important parts of the store. Okay, so within Shopify itself, they have a payment processor that's inbuilt. So it's called Shopify Payments. Okay, so you can actually, okay, now it's on test mode, but before your store goes live, you want to turn off this test mode. And you want to just go to like complete account setup. No, and they'll ask you for like a couple of information regarding your business. So very simple to fill in. They're just asking like what kind of company you are. So if you don't have a company registered and you're just running it as an individual, you can just select the first option. Okay, and you won't have to key in the UEN. So if you're unfamiliar with what a UEN is when you register your business in ACRA, which is registering your business with the government, you will actually get this UEN number. Okay, so if you select individual, you don't need a UEN, but if you choose something like the company type, then you need to key in the UEN. Okay, so if you don't have company, just set it as individual, then you just key in your address where you're doing your business. So usually your home address if you don't have the company set up, and then just your details and all that. Okay, and this part, the banking information, you will want to key in your bank code, branch code, and account number. So this is where Shopify will transfer the money that your customers have paid. They'll transfer it to your bank account. Okay. So the transfer is automatic. If I'm not wrong, it's every 4 business days, if I'm not wrong, or 1 week. Okay, I think, yeah. Okay, so after you set the Shopify payments, this is to collect credit card. So if you look here, there's Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and all that. Okay, you want to set up PayPal as well. PayPal is also quite popular with customers for payment. Okay, in fact, like some of the customers that we met, they will say something like, they'll email us and say like, you know, if I'll only purchase from your site if you have PayPal. Okay, so that's how much trust that people have with the PayPal platform. And one of the reasons is because, you know, for PayPal, they already have like their credit card information stored in PayPal. So they won't have to key in the credit card information again on your site. Okay, so some people, they just feel more comfortable with, you know, not keying in their credit card onto your website. So instead, they rather just log into PayPal and then they make the payment from there. So I highly recommend setting up a PayPal account as well. Okay, so you can just click on complete account setup and there'll be a very simple guided setup to teach you like how to set up your PayPal account. Okay, and then you just want to make sure that it's enabled on your store. Okay, you can also set up third-party providers, but I don't think that's very necessary unless for some reason you need a different payment processor. Okay, so usually just Shopify payments and PayPal is enough. So it allows you to collect like the credit cards and PayPal payments already. Okay, so, and also just take note that if you use the Shopify payments, there's a transaction rate, but this transaction rate is pretty standard across like different payment processors. Okay, and there's a 0% transaction fee. So that means aside from the rate that they're gonna charge, which is this 3.2% plus 50 cents, there's no additional transaction fee. Okay, but if you connect a third-party provider, there will be an additional transaction fee. Okay, so to know how much is the transaction fee, okay, they wrote here 2% fee applies to payments processed through third-party providers. Okay, and I believe that if you select, you know, Shopify has like different plans. They have like the basic plan and professional plan and something like that. Okay, so as you go up the tier, this rate actually will decrease for the third-party provider. Okay, but anyway, if you're just setting up this tool, then there's no additional transaction fee. Okay, so
Sorry, can you give
Yeah.
an example of this third-party provider that you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so some of this, I think one famous example would be Stripe. So anyone heard before Stripe? Stripe.com?
I haven't.
Okay, so yeah, so I can just show you. So this is an example of a third-party provider. So they are called Stripe. So basically, you can, they allow you to connect like this Stripe processor to your website, and then you can accept payments through their software. Okay, so you can have a look at Stripe. But fun fact, I think like Shopify payments, they actually work with Stripe to come up with this Shopify payments. Yeah, this is
You
quite.
are breaking up, Shaylin. You're breaking up.
Okay. So let me just pause a while. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Better now.
Okay. Okay, so I was saying that one of the examples of the third-party provider, it will be Stripe. Okay, so this is Stripe. And this third-party providers, you can, like most of this, they allow you to, like they work with Shopify and all this like other e-commerce platforms. So you can actually connect their system to your Shopify store and then collect payments through their processor. So Stripe is also for credit card payments. Oh, okay. Is it my internet? Hang on. Okay, everyone, if you can hear me clearly, just let me know in the chat. Or am I still breaking up? Okay, it's still breaking up. Hang on. Okay. Okay, so if my voice is back to normal, you help me type 2 in the chat. Or if you're still hearing it break up, then type 1. Okay, everyone, do you mind if I log out and then I just reconnect again? So just give me like 2 minutes, so I'll be back. Yeah, okay. So I will reconnect again with, I'll try to use my data so maybe it doesn't break up so much. 없는 인터넷 개동. Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me clearly now? Is it a bit better? Okay, great. Okay, so let me continue where I left off. Okay, great. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so I was here, right? So I was saying that one example of the third-party payment provider is called Stripe. Okay, so this is just the website just to show you. And they work with different e-commerce platforms to offer this payment processing service. So that makes it very easy for you to like connect this kind of provider to your Shopify store. So in fact, from Shopify itself, you can choose from their list of third-party providers. So most likely they already like work with these providers, so it's easier to connect providers that are in this list. Okay, but I was saying that for Shopify payments, based on my understanding, Shopify payments is actually using the Stripe processor. So in the past, they didn't have this Shopify payments. This is quite recent. So only this year, I think, then they launched this Shopify payments. So now it makes it even easier for you to just collect credit card information without having to use like a third-party provider. Okay, so so that's about it for the payment collection. So let me just move on to the remaining settings that you need to set up before you launch your store. Okay, so just some very simple ones to go through. The other settings you want to set up is just look under like general, and then you want to key in all this information for your store. Okay, so this store contact email and sender email is a bit different. Store contact email is more like for Shopify to contact you about your store info, so it's like internal. And this sender email is what customers are going to see on their end when they receive emails from you. Okay, then you want to just go ahead and fill up all this information. Okay, so nothing much, just quite simple information to fill in and choose the store currency that you're going to use. Okay, and then the other setting you want to go to is to do your checkout settings. Okay, so once again, you can customize the checkout after you have selected your Shopify plan. Okay, and then you can choose whether you want to allow customer accounts. So normally I just set this to optional because some customers, they might want to have an account on your store. So basically this is what the customer account looks like. They can log in and then they can see things like their order history with you and their address that they save so that they don't have to keep keying in the information if they are coming back to make another purchase. Okay, so you can just put this as optional. And then you can give them the option to check out by their phone number or email. Okay, this is up to you, but sometimes I like to change it to check out using email because I like to collect the email as well. Okay, so it's quite useful for email marketing. Okay, and then yeah, normally I'll give them the option to add a phone number so they can receive like shipping updates. Okay, and there's this shop app option, right? They say that customers can download the shop app from their order status page. Okay, but normally I leave this unchecked. Okay, so the reason for that is, if you recall earlier, we built like a tracking page, right, on our store. So our tracking is internal on the website. Okay, whereas this shop app, it lets them it's like a separate app where they can log in and look at their delivery status. So the reason personally why I don't use the shop app is because I want them to come back to the website to track their order. Okay, so it's always useful to like keep sending customers back to your website, right? So you never know when they come back, they might just browse your store again and come and make another purchase from your store. Okay, so that's why I like to do the tracking page internal. I normally don't want to send them out to like an external website to track their order. Okay, and then you can set this form options. So normally I just do it like this. Okay, and then there's this section called tipping. So this is also quite new. I think it's launched like last month or something like that. Okay, so you can just leave this check. So show the tipping options at checkout. Okay, and you can set all this, how much percentage you want to let customers tip you. So this gives customer the option to actually leave you a tip. So later I'll show you how it looks like. Okay, but just useful to have this on. Anyway, it's optional. They can choose not to leave you a tip if they don't want to. Okay, but I tested this and I have quite a number of customers that did leave like tips. So so why not, right? It's free extra money. Okay, so the next one is order processing. So normally I would just do, so normally I just do it like this and I do not tick the autocomplete. So the reason is because last time when I ticked this, right, then people were emailing me to tell me that their shipping address is wrong because like it was pre-filled. So now to prevent this, I just untick this. Okay, so that they can edit by themselves and we make sure the address is correct. Okay, and then I'll just do it like this. The settings. So you can come and refer to this recording when you're setting up the settings again. Okay. So all these are options for the customers at the checkout. Okay, and okay, Shopify has this abandoned checkouts feature. So you can choose to, for Shopify to help you send the abandonment cart email, or you can do it using an external app or do it manually like from another email platform. Okay, so I'm not sure if you recall, like last session I was talking about some apps that I recommend to use with your Shopify, and one of them was the Abandonment Protector, which lets you send up to 3 abandonment checkout emails. Okay, so does everyone here know what is an abandoned checkout email? Just to check first. So if you know what is an abandoned checkout email, type 1. Okay, so I think, okay, so if you don't know what's an abandonment checkout email, right, you can type 2 in the chat, then I'll explain it. Okay, so Ivy and Esther, okay, so quite a few people don't know what is an abandonment checkout email. Okay, so let me just define it first so we all understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so basically an abandonment checkout email, if you ever shop online, right, let's say you shop on any e-commerce website. Okay, when you don't finish your checkout, so let's say you add like some items to your cart, right, and you almost want to complete your order, and then at the last minute you change your mind and you think like, let me think about it for longer, and then you close and leave the website. Okay, so this is what we call an abandoned cart, which is that when people, they add items to their cart and they press checkout, but okay, so for example, like let's say I add teeth whitening kit to my cart. Okay, so like I almost want to purchase already, and then I press checkout on my store. Okay, and then like, let's say I fill up all the information, and then when it comes to the last step where when I have to pay, so when people are asked to pay, they start to think longer, right, whether they really want to purchase the item. Okay, and that's when most people will actually drop off from your, not most people, okay, a percentage of people will actually start to drop off from your website, which means that they change their mind and they decide not to purchase. Okay, so this is what we call an abandoned checkout. Okay, and when that happens, normally you can set up this abandonment checkout email, which is you email the customer because they already fill in their information, right? They already gave you their email and they already gave you like their address and everything. So they just didn't make payment. Okay, so you have their email, and normally what happens is most stores, they will send the customer an email and say something like, hey, you have some items in your cart and you haven't finished checking out your order, so don't forget to check out and we save your cart for you, or something like that. Okay, so anyone experience this? I think most of you hopefully have shopped online. So Yeah, okay, so Teresa says me, okay? So anyone else experience like receive an email like this, like remind you that you have to complete your order. Like don't forget to complete your order. Okay, Ivy, Esther, okay. So we experienced this like quite daily, right? But we didn't think much of it, right? So yeah, so this is an abandonment checkout email. Okay, and what the purpose of the abandonment checkout email is for. Okay, so in Shopify, they have this abandoned checkout email built in for you. So if you take, you can tell them that I want to send this email to everyone who abandons the checkout and send after how long. Okay, but normally I don't use this because we did some testing, and normally we find that if you send multiple this reminder emails, right, it actually works better than just sending one email. Okay, so if you use the app that I recommended previously, that was called the Abandonment Protector. I just typed again in the chat. Abandonment Protector. I think you can also find the slides. I might have uploaded the slides already. Okay, and it's only like $8 USD a month, and it lets you send up to like 3 abandonment emails. Okay, and we find that when you do this abandonment emails, right, the sooner the better, right, for the first email. So the first email, we usually set it at like 5 or 10 minutes after they abandon the checkout. Okay, and the second email, you can do it like, you know, like 4 hours, 6 hours after they abandon the checkout. And the last email, you can do it like maybe like 18 hours after they abandon the checkout. So like the next day or something. So that's how we normally set up the sequence. So how it goes, right, is that just some tips. So how it goes is normally for the first email, I'll just do like a very simple standard, like, hey, don't forget all these items you left in your cart. Okay, so remember to come back and get these items before they're sold out. And you can add like, we are low on stock, so grab it before it's gone or something like that. Okay, and then the second email, we'll do something, we'll start to entice them with the discount, right? So we'll start to say, hey, like I have a one-time special offer for you. You can take, 10% off your order, but this offer only lasts for 24 hours, okay, or something like that. And then for the last email, we'll say something like, hey, so just don't forget your discount, and there's only 6 hours left for you to use your discount before it expires. Okay, so you can set up the sequence like that, and this has been quite effective for us. So I always stick with like this quite proven sequence, I would say. Okay, so that's for the abandoned checkout. And I will also show you how to set up all these discounts, right, that you can give to the customers that they can use on your store. Okay, okay, so let me just see. Okay, you can set up this taxes if you collect taxes. So if you remember, if I said that, if you're GST registered and things like that, you can set up tax rates. Okay, but if you're not, you can actually just skip this whole thing. Okay, you don't have to enter the tax rate. Okay, and then notification emails. Okay, this one is quite important also. So in settings, there's this notifications. So you want to make sure that you go and look at all this and customize it. Okay, so you want to go to customize first. Okay, and then you just upload like your logo, you set your brand color and all that. So this is how example notification email looks. Okay, you can see that, quite standard. Like, after you purchase, you'll get an email that says like, this is your order confirmation, what is your order number, and then what have you purchased. So a summary of your order. Okay, and then Shopify has already pre-built the templates. Okay, so if I preview this, hang on. Okay, Shopify has already pre-built these templates for you, but they actually allow you to go in and edit. Okay, so the preview is here. Okay, they changed this interface like just a few days ago, so I got a bit confused. Okay, so here you can, under actions, you can actually preview how it looks. Okay, so you can see how it looks. And if you don't like certain like text or you want to customize the text, you can also do it directly here. So don't be intimidated by all this like funny code looking stuff, right? You just look for the text. So for example, when you preview, let's say you want to edit the, like, hi John, the Hello Smile team is preparing your order. Let's say you don't want it to say preparing your order, you want to change the words or something. You just go and look for the, here. So the text is here, right? Hi, customer first name, the Hello team Smile is preparing order. So they have this curly bracket because they will populate this for you automatically based on whatever the customer key in. So don't worry about all this code stuff. You can just edit the text accordingly here. Okay, just look for the corresponding text. Okay, and same thing, after order confirmation, there's also like other emails. So you can just go in and yeah, they will tell you like what each of these emails are. And the other important one is probably the shipping confirmation. So you want to also just preview and edit if you want. Okay. So something like that, you can say your order is on the way. You can track to see the delivery status. Okay, and here in the shipping confirmation, you might want to edit this and add also your tracking link. So on our website, we have our custom tracking page, right? So you want to actually just link this as well in the shipping confirmation. Okay, you can give them this link and then edit and put it here. Okay, so you can say like, you can track your order at this link. Okay. Okay, so that's all for notification emails. For discount setup, you can easily do it here. So if you look at my left panel, there's a tab here for discounts. Okay, you can look at discount. And you can actually add your own discount codes. So you can create discount. Okay, you can set the code and how much discount you want to give. You want to give like a percentage, like 10% off, or you want to do fixed amount, like $10 off. Okay, up to you. You can set, and you can set whether there's any requirements, like whether they have to purchase certain minimum amount for them to use the discount. Okay, so this is where you can set the discounts. Okay, and the last part you want to check, right, before you launch is under online store. Just go to preferences, okay, and just make sure you fill all this in. So the last session I covered a bit about like how to edit your product page SEO, right, and what is SEO, how it shows up on the search engine listing. Okay, so here you can also edit the how it appears in the search engine for your website. Okay, so you can just do something like this. Normally just the name of your store and then what your store is about. Just very clearly describe what are you selling. Okay, in some very short text, and then just a quick description. And if you have like free shipping, money back guarantee and things like that, you might want to add in as well. Okay, so it appears in the, so it makes people like want to click on your listing that appears in the search engine. Okay, you can just go in and remember to disable the password as well, because by default your store will have the password enabled. Okay, and if you launch it the password, then no one can buy anything. Okay, yeah, and if you have bought a domain, you can connect your domain here. So online store domains. Okay, you can connect any custom domain. So that's like your .com or .sg or those domains that you can buy. Okay, you can buy the domain directly on Shopify, or you can buy it through third-party provider. So example of third-party provider is like Namecheap. Okay, so this is one place that you can buy domains. So you can key in and see what's available and can buy it, and then you can connect it to your Shopify store. Okay, or you can also go to another one that I also use is, I think it's, yeah, this one, GoDaddy. Okay, but now I mostly use Namecheap. Yeah, I find it quite easy to like just organize and the interface is cleaner. Okay, so, okay, last few settings. Okay, I'm ending soon. Last few settings, you want to choose your Shopify plan. Of course, they will prompt you anyway. Okay, so you want to choose your Shopify plan to begin with. Normally, just basic is enough. Okay, and then you want to also set up your billing, which is under settings. There's a billing option. Okay, and ignore my payment info. Okay, so you want to put in your payment info so that Shopify bills you for your plan through the payment method that you selected. Okay. Okay, that's about it for the Shopify setup. Okay, it's now 10:05, so sorry I exceeded by 5 minutes. Okay, just to check, because I don't have time to show you the live demo of like placing an order on the website, right? So just to check, if everyone is okay with it, right? How many people here want me to show the live demo of how to like the customer journey, like when they order from website, and they're like receiving the notification email, how they key in discount and all that. Okay, so those who want me to show, it will take about, I think just 5 to 10 minutes, very fast. Okay, 5 to 10 minutes. Those are okay with it, just type 1. So I'll continue to show the live demo. Okay, great. Okay, so everyone is okay with it, huh? Okay, so thanks for sticking with me until now. Okay, and let me just show you the fun part. So after your entire website is set up, let me just show you how it looks for the customer. Okay, so let's say I'm a customer and then I land on this like Hello Smile website. Okay, and I see like all this like nice products. So I click on the product, I read the description. Okay, and then I can choose the variant that I want to buy, and then I add to my cart. Okay, and then it will bring them to the cart page where they will see their order, and then they confirm like they want all these items. Or if they don't want certain items, they can also remove from the order. Okay, or they can also leave the seller a note if you have the order notes turned on, the one that I was saying in the previous section. So for example, they might want to say like gift wrap my item, you know, or something like that. Okay, if not, they will just proceed to checkout. Okay, and then they will give you their details. Okay, so most people, they will complete this step. So let's say I call my email is Shelin Demo. Okay, and they can choose whether they want to opt into like your updates. Basically giving their permission for you to like send them marketing emails. Okay, then I will do my, okay, so anyhow key in. So here I just put in some placeholder information. Okay, and then they'll complete all their settings. And then you see over here, they have an option to put a discount code. Okay, so if you already set up a discount code previously, okay, so in my Shopify dashboard, I have this temporary code set up. Okay, I just call it free, and it gives me 100% discount. Okay, just for the demo. Okay, so I'll key in my discount code here. Okay, and then I can apply my code. Okay, so you see after I apply my code, they can see that the code has been applied. So because it's 100% discount, okay, my order is $0, 100% off. Okay, and then after they confirm, then they can continue to shipping, which is the next step. So you can see here is a multi-step, right? So they can see what step they are at. Okay, and here is where they will see the shipping rates that you set up just now. Okay, so now my order is what, 59.99. Okay, it did not exceed the $80 that's required for the free express shipping, right? So you can see here the option doesn't show up to me. Here I'm only seeing the normal options, free standard shipping and express shipping, which is paid. Okay, and okay, for now I'm going to select the free standard shipping and I can continue to payment. Okay, and now this is the last step, the payment step. And you can see here they have the option, the tipping options, just now I was saying. And they can choose to leave you a tip. So they can just click on the option and leave you a tip, or they can key in whatever amount they want to give you. Okay, and they might want to add the tip. Anyway, just a trick. Now is a good time to collect. Okay, I hope this is not unethical, but this is a good time to collect tips because you can say something like, this text you can edit. So at tipping options, the settings, I think they will explain how you can edit the text. You can say something like, you show your support for our team during this difficult time or something like that. You can edit the text to say whatever you want. Okay, and then, okay, here my order is free because it's $0, so the payment is not showing up. But if you set up the payment settings already, and then there's an amount that's chargeable, okay, they will be able to see credit card or PayPal, and they can choose whether they want to pay by credit card or PayPal. Okay, and here directly, if they choose credit card, they can key in their credit card number directly on your website. Okay, and or they can choose PayPal and log into their PayPal and make payment. Okay, and it will automatically be processed for you by Shopify Payments or PayPal. Okay, and they can choose the billing address if it's different from the shipping address. And they can choose whether they want to save their information so that next time when they return to your website, it's a faster process. Okay, and this payment step is where most people will start dropping off. And then that's why you need the abandonment cart email setup, right? So it will bring them back to complete the cart. Okay, so if you have the email set up, the email, normally there will be a link and it will bring them back to the cart step. Okay. Okay, now I will check my order and then I will complete my order. Okay, and this is what they will see. Okay, and it says, thank you for your purchase. Okay, and then your order is confirmed. You'll receive a confirmation email with the number shortly, and they have a summary of their order. They can also click this and key in their number so they can get some text updates if they want to. Okay, so this is the order summary page. And if you recall the previous lesson, I was talking about the recommended apps, right? And one of it, I was talking about Suite Upsell, the app that can upsell, you can sell them another product after their checkout. Okay, so if you have Suite Upsell installed, Suite Upsell is going to appear at this step on top of all this order summary. So the offer will appear here. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to check my email because it says I have an order confirmation email. Okay, so this is my email that I used to purchase. So you see the customer automatically receive an order confirm email. Okay, and this is where they will see what information you have prepared in the notification email settings. Okay, if I click view your order, I can just go back to the order summary page again. Okay, so this is what the customer will see on their end, and then on your end as the seller, you can go to your orders tab and you will see a copy of the order here. So this is the order I just placed, and then you can see here I can see what the customer key. They ordered a purple small with a discount applied. You can see the amount that they paid. I can see what address I'm supposed to ship to, and I can see the like a history of what emails they received from me and all that. I can see like how many orders they have already placed. Are they a repeat buyer? Okay, they even have this like fraud analysis, quite useful. So it will tell you whether the customer is a low or high risk customer. So from my experience, right, sometimes you might get high risk order. And for high risk order, personally, I would just cancel and refund because for high risk order, there's a chance that why they call it high risk, right, is because some of these orders or some of these customers, right, they might have placed orders on other stores as well. And then after that, they initiate what we call a credit card chargeback. Okay, so what a chargeback is that they call their bank and then they say like, after you, like, let's say you ship the item to them already, then they can call their bank and they say like, you know, this is a fraudulent order or something, please please cancel this charge. Okay, so what happens is if they do that, right, they initiate the chargeback, you will lose the product cost, you will lose the money if you lose the chargeback. So you have a chance to like fight the chargeback. Okay, and yeah, and there's also a $15 admin fee per order if you get the chargeback and if you lose the chargeback. Okay, so a high risk order, this is by Shopify's their inbuilt analysis, right? So normally high risk order, I just cancel and refund. Okay, but it's really up to you. If you want to take the risk, you think that, you know, losing the product cost is fine. If the customer really open chargeback, then you can go ahead and fulfill it. So there's no hard and fast rule. Okay, or you can even email customer to ask them for more information to verify like they are the owner of the card and all that. Okay, so you can see if you click on full analysis, they will tell you what indicators and why they consider it a high risk order. Okay, so what else? Okay, so when you want to fulfill the order, right, which is you ship out the item already, we call that fulfillment. Okay, when you ship the order already, you can click mark as fulfilled, and you can see you can give the customer their tracking number. Okay, so the tracking number has to be keyed in for your tracking page to work. Okay, for them to use your tracking page, the tracking number must be keyed in. So you can key in their tracking number, you can put a carrier or just other, then put your own, you can put your tracking page link, and you can send shipment details to your customer. Okay, so when you take this send shipment details, they will receive the shipping confirmation email, okay, which is also set up in the notifications just now. Okay, then you can fulfill the items. Okay, so that's the end for the live demo. Okay, so I hope you found this like very helpful and also quite a comprehensive guide, right? Very fast. You just follow this whole checklist. Very fast, you can set up your own like e-commerce store. Okay, and start collecting like payment from customers. Okay. Okay, just looking at the chat. So anyone got questions? Feel free to type in the chat now. So I spend the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so Teresa asked, for future sessions, are you going to teach us how to market the shop link? Okay, so answer is yes. In fact, for the marketing segment of the course, right, which will be covered by Johan. Okay, for the marketing segment, definitely do stick around to and attend the session for the marketing. Okay, because the things that we're going to teach, right, like Facebook marketing, even like a bit of marketing on Google, but we are mostly focusing on Facebook. Okay, all these skills, right, are very valuable and in fact, like very transferable. Even if you're not doing e-commerce, right, you're doing, let's say, like other type of business, you know, even other type of business, right, you can also use this like Facebook marketing skills and all that. Okay, it's very transferable. So you can use the skills to market, you know, whatever you want to sell. Okay, yeah, okay, so anyone has any more questions? Okay, so Ivy asks, but we'll need to set up the shop first, correct? Okay, yeah, that's correct. So you have to set up your shop first. So before you start marketing your product, right, definitely get your whole store set up done first. Okay.
Shaylin, we have a lot of assignments to do, and we want to keep up with the, you know, the things that we've learned how to set up the Shopify store. But it's just, you know, really tough, you know, with the timing and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Okay, so no worries. So there's no rush. Okay, so for this whole Shopify segment, right, I have no assignment. I have no assignment for you. So I know you already have like quite a few assignments to complete, right? Okay, so for this content, right, it's more like you can, you know, like even after you finish this entire course, right, the 12-week course, you can always come back and reference this content. You know, when you're sure you want to do your e-commerce store and you finish the course already, you can come back, reference it, and then after that you can set up the store. So there's like no rush to you know, complete the store setup like within this 12-week period. Okay.
Yeah, but then when we have questions, you know, and we're not sure, are we able to have access?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you have the WhatsApp chat, right? I'm actually inside the chat.
Yes.
I'm inside the WhatsApp chat. So if you have any questions for me or even Johan, you can just type in the chat. Then we'll like check and we'll reply as well if you have any questions.
After the cost.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Ivy. Okay, so for Teresa has another question, how to know the shipping rates that we need to charge? Okay, so for shipping rates, it really depends on what shipping carrier that you're working with. So for example, you have to work with like a logistic partner, right, to get your items shipped, or even if you're shipping yourself, let's say like you're selling locally, you want to ship by SingPost, okay, and all that, then you might want to check like how much this shipping carrier gonna charge you first, okay, and then after that you can set it up in the settings accordingly. Or sometimes like even for some stores, right, we actually absorb the shipping for the customer, so that we are able to provide them like the free shipping. Okay, but if you don't want to provide the free shipping, right, it's not a must to have free shipping. Okay, you can also charge for shipping. Yeah, so it will depend on the carrier that you work with, because different carriers, they have very different rates, right?
Shaylin, according to the shipping rate, even in Singapore, we can use SingPost, we can use Grab, I don't know, you know, whatever is in the market. But is there a place where we can get a rate for comparison, or do we have to call each one up and check with them?
Okay, so I think there is this website you can check. It's called EasyShip. Let me just check. Is it EasyShip? Okay, sorry, I think it's not EasyShip. It's another one that is or Easy Parcel or something. Let me just go and check, and then I will get back to you. So that one is it's not Easy Ship. Easy Ship is international, but there's one like local one that you can compare rates locally by those like different couriers, or you can even use like Ninja Van. So anyone heard of Ninja Van? Okay, so personally I have used Ninja Van and I find them to be quite good. Yeah, I think most people have heard of Ninja Van, right? They're quite like one of the main couriers now that people can use. So they have like services that like they can come and pick up parcels from you, or they even have like drop off points where you can pack the parcels and then you can drop off at their points. So I think they call that like Ninja Packs or something. Okay, so you can check out Ninja Van. I think they're quite reliable and the delivery is also quite fast as well. Okay, you can just like do you can, let's say if you need like warehousing and all that, right? Then I would recommend you can just do a Google search for like companies that offer like 3PL service. So those that offer warehousing and pick and pack service, which is like they help you to ship out your orders as the orders come in. Okay. Yeah. So for these shipping providers, you can actually give them access to your Shopify store. You can see that there's this area in the plan and permissions, right? You can add staff account. So you can give them like a third-party access to your store. Okay, don't give them full permissions. If not, they might kick you out of your store. Okay, but you can give them access to very specific category. So let's say I add a staff, right? And then I can give them access to like just my orders. Okay, and then they can look at these orders and they can help me fulfill my orders accordingly. Okay, so that you can automate the process. So this one I will cover a bit later on in this e-commerce session. Okay, after marketing will be the very last segment. We'll be talking about automation. Okay, which is how to like hire people to help you, fulfill your orders and handle your store for you. Okay, so this is one of the things that they can use, or even right, some logistic provider they might have their own app that they develop, their third-party app that they can connect to your store. So you can ask them if they have this kind of functionality. So if they connect, then when your orders come in, they will receive on their end. Okay, and they will automatically like help you fulfill it. Okay, so let's see. Any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, then I'll end the session here today. Okay, so thanks for sticking a bit late with me today to go through this Shopify segment. Okay. Okay, no problem, Ivy. No problem, Kati. Let me just end this. Okay, so thanks everyone. If you have questions later on, like let's say you think of any more questions that you want to ask, you can feel free to just type in the WhatsApp chat. And also the recording and the slides will be uploaded to the Google Classroom as usual. Okay, so the parcel website, let me check. I will get back to you and then I'll put it in the Google Classroom as well. So the link for the comparison of all the local shipping rates. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Good night. Okay, I'll see you again.